always kind. But we will do our work. We will be polite. And whatever he says, you remember this." She touched his cheek. "We are not less than anyone else." He repeated the words softly as though memorizing a verse. "We are not less than anyone else." The carriage finally stopped before the wide stone steps. The driver climbed down and opened the door. "Signora Bianchi," he said, "we have arrived." Lucia drew a breath, lifted her chin and stepped down, holding Matteo's hand. The air carried the faint chill of water and stone. The front door stood shut, but it opened before she reached the steps. A woman appeared in the doorway. Her hair was streaked with grey, her dress plain but neat, her expression serious. Her hands were folded in front of her. "Signora Lucia Bianchi?" she asked. "Yes." Lucia stopped at the base of the steps. "This is my son, Matteo." The woman's gaze went briefly to the child, then back to Lucia, measuring. "I am Signora Carmela. I keep the house for the Count. Come in. The luggage can be taken up by the boy from the stables." Lucia gestured to the driver, who began lowering their small trunk. Matteo tugged at her sleeve. "Mamma, shall I carry the horse?" he whispered. "Always," she said. Inside, the entrance hall was cool and dim, though light filtered through tall windows. The stone floor echoed under their steps. Lucia felt Matteo's fingers tighten around hers as he looked up at the high ceilings and serious portraits. Carmela walked ahead with a firm, unhurried pace. "You came from the city?" the housekeeper asked. "From Milan," Lucia answered. "Yesterday. We stayed the night in a village half a day from here." "And before that?" Lucia hesitated a moment. "Before that I lived with my mother-in-law, in a small house. My husband's house." Carmela gave a small nod, as if this confirmed something she already knew. "The agency said you have experience as a caregiver." "Yes," Lucia said quietly. "I cared for my husband during his illness, and later for an elderly lady in Milan. And you chose this post?" There was no contempt in the question, only surprise. "The house is remote, the work is not easy." "I did not choose the place," Lucia said. "I chose the wage." Carmela glanced back at her, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "Of course." They passed a doorway where two maids paused in their dusting to stare. A young footman carrying linens nearly collided with Lucia, then quickly stepped aside. The looks were not openly hostile, but they held that mixture of curiosity and resignation Lucia had seen in boarding houses and employers' kitchens. "How many caregivers have been here?" Lucia asked. Carmela's mouth pressed into a thin line. "Many." "How many in the last months?" Lucia added. The housekeeper hesitated. "5, she said at last. "Perhaps 6. It is easy to lose count." "And none stayed?" "None," Carmela replied. "The last one left after 3 days." "What happened?" Lucia asked. Carmela sighed. "Nothing that has not happened before. The Count is demanding. He does not like to be assisted. He does not like strangers. He does not like his condition. And he is a man who was not accustomed to hearing the word no." "Did he mistreat them?" Lucia asked, keeping her voice even. "He did not strike them, if that is what you fear," Carmela said. "He used only his tongue. For some, that is as painful as any blow." Lucia felt Matteo look up at her, but she kept her gaze on Carmela. "I have heard worse words than any he can invent," she said softly. "I will manage. We will see," Carmela answered. "No one lasts a week. That is what they say now." "Who says that?" Lucia asked. "The servants, the cook, the stable boy, the children who deliver bread." Carmela's eyes met hers. "And perhaps the Count himself. It has become almost a rule here. A new face on Sunday, an empty room by Saturday." Lucia drew a quiet breath. "Then perhaps it is time someone broke the rule." Carmela studied her for a moment. "You are young," she said. "You have a child. No one will think less of you if you decide the task is too heavy." "No one whose opinion I must fear," Lucia replied. "My concern is not what they think of me. It is whether my son eats." Matteo lifted his head a little higher at the word. Carmela looked at him and then back at Lucia. "Very well," she said. "Let me show you your room." She led them up a narrow back staircase to a modest chamber on the second floor. The window looked out onto a side courtyard. There was a bed, a small dresser, a washstand, and a simple chair. "The boy may sleep with you," Carmela said. "There is no extra room prepared for him. Children are not expected in this house." She hesitated on the last words but did not soften them. "I understand," Lucia said. "You will start this afternoon," Carmela continued. "The Count has been informed that a new caregiver would arrive today." He did not object. "That is as much welcome as you will receive." "How shall I address him?" Lucia asked. "As Count Alessandro or Signore Conte," Carmela said. "Never by his first name alone. He is particular about forms." "And I?" Lucia asked. "Am I Signora Bianchi or Lucia?" "You are what he chooses to call you," Carmela said. "In this house, that is how it is." She gave a short nod and left them to settle in. When the door closed, Matteo climbed onto the bed and bounced lightly, testing the mattress. "It is softer than Nonna's," he announced. "Do not jump," Lucia said, though her tone was gentle. "We are guests here. Or rather, we are workers. Workers do not damage their employers' beds." "Will we stay long?" he asked. "As long as they pay me," she said. "As long as they let us." "And the Count," he said. "Will he let us?" Lucia thought of the hall, the portraits, and the echo of servants' footsteps. "Perhaps he will try to send us away, but we will not be easily moved. Are you ready for that, little soldier?" Matteo straightened his back. "Yes, Mama." She pulled him close and kissed his forehead. "Good. Then we shall not be frightened by a man in a big house. Now help me open the trunk. We must look respectable." Later, when the bells from some distant church had struck midday, Carmela returned for her. "The Count is in his sitting room," she said. "He expects you." "May Matteo stay here?" Lucia asked. "He may come down to the kitchens," Carmela replied. "The cook will give him something to eat. But he is not to wander. Make sure he understands." Lucia knelt by the bed. "Matteo, you will go with Signora Carmela to the kitchen," she said. "You will sit quietly, and you will do as you are told. No running, no exploring. This is not our house." "Yes, Mamma," he said, though curiosity shone in his eyes. She took his face in her hands. "And remember, we are not less than anyone else. If someone speaks sharply, you stand straight. Do not answer back without respect, but do not hang your head." He repeated the words once more. She squeezed his small fingers, then released them. In the corridor outside, Carmela walked in silence beside Lucia. "There are rules," the housekeeper said at last. "The Count does not like noise. He does not like doors to slam. He does not like to be surprised. Announce yourself before you enter his rooms. Speak clearly. Do not attempt to move him without his consent. He will call if he wishes assistance. If he does not, do not insist." "And if he refuses all assistance?" Lucia asked. Carmela gave a small, tired shrug. "Then you will wait and watch him grow thinner and more angry, as we all do. You will offer water and medicine, and you will hope he accepts. Sometimes he does, sometimes he does not." "And his accident?" Lucia asked gently. "How long has it been?" "More than a year," Carmela said. "Less than 2. He was not like this before." "In what way was he different?" Lucia asked. "Alive," Carmela answered simply. "You will see the remains of that man in his eyes now and then. It makes it harder, I think." They reached a tall door near the end of a corridor. Carmela stopped. "This is his sitting room," she said. "He will likely be by the window. Knock, then wait. If he does not answer, knock again. He hears very well. Do not believe otherwise." Lucia nodded, hands clasped before her skirt. "Thank you, Signora Carmela." Carmela hesitated. "Do not challenge him without thought," she murmured. "He will push. He will look for where you break. Guard that place." Lucia gave a faint smile. "There is not much left to break." Carmela's eyes softened for a heartbeat. "We shall see," she said again, and moved away down the corridor. Lucia stood before the door, felt the weight of the house settle around her, then lifted her hand and knocked. There was no answer. She waited, listening. Nothing. She knocked again, a little louder. A voice came then, low and edged with impatience. "If you are a ghost, enter without ceremony. If you are a living nuisance, you may come in only if you intend to be brief." Lucia's lips tightened briefly. Then she turned the handle and stepped inside. The room was large enough to hold 3 families comfortably. A wide window looked toward the lake, pale in the afternoon light. Near it sat a man in a wheelchair, his back half turned, hands resting on the armrests. His hair was dark, his shoulders broad, his posture rigid. He did not look at her when she entered. "So," he said, "the agency has found another saint to sacrifice." Lucia closed the door gently behind her. "Good afternoon, Signore Conte," she said. "My name is Lucia Bianchi." He gave a short laugh. They all have names at first. Only then did he turn his head. His face was handsome still, though drawn. Lines of strain marked his brow and mouth. His eyes were a clear, unsettling shade that missed nothing. He looked at her as if she were a piece of furniture he had not ordered. "You are younger than the last one," he said at once, "and thinner. Are they running out of strong arms in Milan?" "My arms are sufficient for my work," she answered. "I have carried heavier burdens than your chair, Count Alessandro." His eyes narrowed. "Have you indeed? Whom did you carry?" "Old men. Sick aunts." "My husband," she said quietly. "Before he died." There was a brief pause. He watched her, perhaps expecting tears, but her voice remained steady. "So," he said, "a widow?" "Of course. The agency knows I pay well. Widows are always grateful for wages." "Widows are grateful for many things," Lucia replied. "A roof, honest work, a chance to feed their children." His gaze sharpened. "Children? Plural?" "One child," she said. "My son is here with me. The agency informed your house, I believe." "A child in my house," he said slowly, as if tasting something unpleasant. "Who approved this?" "The same person who agreed to hire a caregiver," Lucia said. "Your steward, or Signora Carmela. I did not force the door." He sighed. "And where is this child now? Running through my corridors, dirtying my carpets?" "He is in the kitchen," Lucia answered, keeping her tone respectful but firm. "Under the supervision of Signora Carmela. He will not disturb you." "You say that now," he replied. "Children disturb simply by existing." "Then you were born unusually quiet, Signore Conte," she said. A corner of his mouth twitched despite himself. "You are impertinent." "I am practical," she answered. "If my words displease you, I will choose different ones, but I will not pretend I am less than what I am to soothe your temper." He stared at her for a long moment. "Come closer," he said. "Let me see what kind of fool they have sent me." She approached, stopping at a respectful distance. He let his gaze travel over her simple dress, her tied-back hair, her worn shoes. There was nothing fine about her, nothing that suggested fragility, only a worn sturdiness, like that of a chair that has survived many moves. "How old are you?" he asked. 27, she said. "And the boy?" 6. "So young to be alone," he remarked. "Was your husband eager to abandon you, or did he simply choose the wrong battlefield?" "He died in the war," she said. "There was no choice in it." "There is always a choice," he said. "Men choose glory and leave widows. And some men choose despair and leave houses full of frightened servants," she answered quietly. Something flashed in his eyes, quick and dangerous. "You are bold," he said softly. "Do you imagine that will help you keep this post?" "I imagine it will help me keep my dignity," she said, "whether I stay or go." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Tell me, Signora Bianchi, what did they promise you? That you would nurse a grateful invalid who would bless your name? That you would be the angel who brings him back to life?" "No one promised me gratitude," she said. "Only wages, and a room for myself and my son. And in exchange you will bathe me, lift me, listen to my complaints, endure my moods," he said. "You will wipe what you do not wish to see. You will hear words you do not wish to hear." "Yes," she said, "if that is what the work demands." "You say that now," he murmured. "The others said the same on the first day. By the third, they were trembling. By the fifth, they were packing. By the seventh, they swore they would rather starve than return." "Then they had somewhere else to go," Lucia said. "I do not." He tilted his head. "Do you mean to tell me that there is no other door in all of Italy that would open for you?" "Perhaps there is," she said, "but I have no time to knock on every door. I have found this one open. I intend to keep it so." He let the silence stretch. The ticking of a clock on the mantel filled the space between them. "You think your need will make you stronger than the others," he said at last. "I know it will," she answered. "I have endured other people's charity. I have endured hunger. I have endured pity. Your anger does not frighten me. You should be frightened," he said softly. "Why?" she asked. "Will you harm me? Will you strike me?" "I think not. You do not look like a man who lowers himself to that." "One does not need fists to cause harm," he said. "One can use words. One can use silence." "I have lived with both," she said. I am still here. He gave a low, humorless laugh. You are not the first to come here with brave speeches, Signora Bianchi. I do not speak bravely, she said. I speak plainly. There is a difference. He turned his head away, looking at the lake. You will not last the week, he said. No one does. Then you will not mind if I stay until Saturday, she replied. After that we shall see. He looked back at her sharply. You presume you have the right to decide how long you remain in my house? I presume I have the right to fulfill the agreement made with your steward, she said. A week's trial, that is what I was told. You presume much, he said. I presume enough to stand on my own feet, she answered. If at the end of the week you wish me gone, I will leave. But until then, I will do the work for which I have come. He watched her with something like irritation and something like curiosity. Come here, he said. Take this blanket. The wool blanket lay folded over the side of his chair. He had pushed it down with one hand and it hung awkwardly. Do not tell me you cannot manage a blanket, he added. She stepped forward, adjusted the blanket over his legs with careful efficiency. Too tight, she asked. Do not ask me if I am comfortable, he said sharply. I am never comfortable. We shall both accept that and save our breath. She straightened the blanket once more, ignoring the sting in his tone. Very well. I will ask instead whether you are cold. I am not a child, he snapped. That was not my question, she replied. He closed his eyes for a moment. No, he said. I am not cold. She moved back a step. Would you like water? No. Your medicine? No. A book? He opened his eyes. Do you always insist so? He asked. I offer what I can, she said. You are free to refuse, that is all. He shook his head. Sit down, he said. There is a chair by the wall. As long as I am cursed with your presence, we may as well not waste all of it in silence. Tell me, did you love your husband? The chair scraped softly as she brought it nearer. Yes, she said simply. Enough to mourn him? He asked. Enough to miss him every day, she replied. Enough to wish sometimes that he had not gone. And yet you live, he said. And yet I live, she answered. Do you regret his death? He asked. She paused, choosing her words. I regret the war, she said. I regret the letter that came instead of him. But I do not regret loving him. Even pain can be a memory of something worth having. He looked at her with a shadow of something like respect. You speak as if you are older than you are. Grief adds years, she said. So does disgrace, he answered. She looked at him more closely. Is that what you feel, disgrace? He stiffened. You forget your place. You asked, she reminded him. He turned his chair slightly away, closing himself off. That will be all for now, he said. You may go and see to your child. Tell the housekeeper I wish no dinner companion tonight. You do not wish me to assist you with anything else, she asked. No, he said. Unless you know how to make a man stand who prefers to remain seated. Do you have that skill, Signora Bianchi? No, she replied quietly. I only know how to stay when others leave. Words, he muttered. Just words. Perhaps, she said. We will see what they become by Saturday. His hand tightened on the armrest. Do not presume you will be here on Saturday, he said. I may have you dismissed today. You may, she agreed. If you do, I will find another road. But until you speak the words to send me away, I will consider myself in your service. He stared at her as if measuring how far she would go. Leave, he said at last. Your presence is tiresome. She inclined her head. As you wish, Signore Conte. She walked to the door, opened it and paused. For what it is worth, she said without turning. I do not think your anger is aimed at me. I will try to remember that when you speak. Do not presume to understand me, he said, his voice sharper than before. I do not, she replied. Not yet. Before he could answer, she slipped out and closed the door gently behind her. The corridor felt strangely narrow after the room. Lucia drew a breath and steadied herself, then made her way back toward the servants' staircase. In the kitchen, the air was warmer, filled with the smell of bread and simmering broth. Matteo sat at a corner table with a bowl in front of him, swinging his feet. Mamma, he said, brightening. Did you see the Count? Yes, she said, going to him. I saw him. Is he very terrible? Matteo asked in a hushed tone. She smiled faintly and brushed a crumb from his chin. He is a man who has forgotten how to be anything but angry, she said. That is all. Will we stay? He asked. Yes, she said. We will stay. Carmela, standing near the stove, watched her. Did he treat you badly? The housekeeper asked. He treated me as he treats everyone, I think, Lucia said. But I am still here. For now, Carmela said. Do not count on more than a day at a time in this house. Very well, Lucia replied. Then today I am here. Tomorrow we shall see. And as for the week, she let the thought hang, but inside she tightened her resolve. A week meant food in her son's belly, coins in her hand, a roof over their heads. She would not surrender that to a stranger's bitterness. As evening fell, the house settled into its peculiar quiet. After a simple supper in the servants' quarters, Lucia bathed Matteo in a small basin in their room, dried him with care, and helped him into his nightshirt. He sat on the bed, knees drawn up, looking around the unfamiliar room. Will he shout at you again tomorrow? He asked. Perhaps, she said, tucking the blanket around him. But I have heard shouting before. What will you do? He asked. I will listen, she said, and then I will do what must be done. That is what mothers do. He studied her face. Are you afraid, Mama? She hesitated, then chose the truth. A little, she said, but fear does not feed us. Work does. So I will be more stubborn than my fear. He nodded solemnly. I will be stubborn too. She laughed softly. You already are. Now lie down. He obeyed, but when she leaned over to kiss his forehead, he caught her wrist. Will you go away? He whispered. No, she said. I will stay right here until you sleep. And tomorrow when you wake up, I will still be here. Do you trust me? Yes, he whispered. She sat on the edge of the bed, stroking his hair. The candle on the small table flickered. The house creaked softly, settling. Somewhere a clock chimed the hour. Mama, Matteo murmured, eyes already half closed. Do you think the Count is lonely? She looked at the wall, as if she could see through it, across corridors and doors, to the man sitting alone in his chair. I think he is, she said. Perhaps more than he knows. Then maybe we should stay, Matteo said drowsily. So he will be less lonely. She leaned down and kissed his hair. We will stay, she whispered. We will endure his anger, his silence, whatever he throws at us. We will not run after 2 days or 3. We will be stronger than that, you and I. His breathing slowed. That is what mothers do, she added softly, more to herself than to him. No man, no count, no harsh word will frighten me away when I must feed my child. Not in a week. Not in a day. In his sitting room on the other side of the house, Alessandro sat in the dim light, the blanket heavy over his useless legs. The silence pressed on him from all sides. He had sent away the tray with his dinner almost untouched. The words of the new caregiver echoed in his mind, unwanted but stubborn. He reached for the wheels of his chair, turned it slightly toward the door, then stopped. A faint sound drifted through the corridor. A woman's low voice, a child's softer replies. He could not make out every word, but the tone reached him, gentle and steady, like a hand on a fevered brow. We will stay. We will not run. No man frightens a mother who must feed her child. The words came to him in fragments, carried by the quiet of the house. He closed his eyes, his jaw tightening. Something unfamiliar stirred beneath the crust of his bitterness, something like discomfort, almost like shame. No one lasts a week, he muttered to himself, as if repeating a charm that had always worked. But the memory of her voice did not leave. Alessandro opened his eyes and stared into the shadowed room, hearing again that stubborn promise from down the corridor, and thought, we will see if she still says that after 7 days. The next morning came with pale light at the window and the sound of someone calling in the courtyard below. Lucia woke at once the way she had learned to wake when her husband coughed in the night. Beside her, Matteo slept curled like a kitten, his hand still wrapped around his toy horse. She touched his shoulder. Wake, my heart, she said softly. We must not keep a count waiting. He blinked up at her. Already? Already, she said. Work begins early in great houses, or so they like to pretend. He rubbed his eyes. Will you see him again? Yes. Will he shout? Perhaps, she admitted. If he does, I will still stand. And you will eat your breakfast, no matter what noise comes from the upper floors. Do you understand? He nodded. though uncertainty clouded his eyes. She kissed his forehead and rose, quickly dressing in her plain dark dress and apron. She tied her hair back and washed her face in cold water. When she caught her reflection in the small bit of mirror above the basin, she saw the same determined mouth and tired eyes. It would have to do. In the kitchen, Carmela handed Matteo a piece of bread and a cup of warm milk. The cook eyed Lucia with open curiosity. "So, you are still here," the cook said. "That is more than I expected." "It has only been one night," Lucia answered, taking her own small cup. "Even rabbits do not flee in the dark." The cook snorted. "Give it time." Carmela took a cloth from a shelf and handed it to Lucia. "The Count is usually awake by now," she said. "He does not ring for anyone, but if you bring his breakfast and offer it, he may accept, or he may send it back untouched. Do not take it personally if he does." "I will not," Lucia said. "May I ask one thing?" "Yes," Carmela said. "If he refuses his food, what then?" "Then we wait until midday," Carmela answered. "Sometimes hunger persuades him more than reason." Lucia nodded. "Then I shall carry the tray and let hunger fight on my side." She balanced the tray carefully and carried it up the back stairs, the porcelain cups clinking softly. At the door of his sitting room, she paused and knocked. "Enter," came his voice, sharp and sudden. She stepped in. The room looked much the same as the day before. He sat by the window, already dressed, eyes on the lake. "You are early," he said without looking at her. "Morning is the best time for meals and for work," she answered. "I brought coffee and bread." "I did not ask for them," he said. "No," she agreed, "but your body did." He turned his head a fraction. "My body does many things without my consent. That does not mean I must obey it." "I would not speak of obedience between you and your own body," she said. "Only of kindness." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Kindness? You think kindness will cure me?" "No," she said, "but it might make the days less hard to endure." "And what do you know of hard days, Signora Bianchi?" he asked. "You have seen 27 summers. I have seen more." "Summers do not measure pain," she replied, "only candles and calendars." He watched her a moment, then gestured toward a small table near him. "Put the tray there. If I decide I wish to eat, I will call you." "I can help you now," she offered. "A cup is not heavy, but it is more easily lifted with 2 hands than 1. His jaw clenched. "I still have 2 hands," he said. "Yes," she said quietly. "But only one is free if you do not wish to spill." His gaze sharpened. "You saw that?" "I saw the stain on the rug," she said. "The maid will receive the scolding meant for your pride. It is unjust." He flinched almost imperceptibly. "You observe too much." "It is my work," she said, "to see what is needed and offer it without making a parade of it." He looked at her a long moment, then said, "Very well, pour the coffee." She did so in silence, then held the cup so he could take it. His hand brushed hers briefly, the contact fleeting but tense. "You see," he said, "I can drink without assistance." "Of course," she said, "you do not need me for everything. I would not wish you to." "Then why are you here?" he asked. "To do what you cannot do alone," she replied, "and sometimes to do what you will not admit you need help to do." He took a sip, watching her over the edge of the cup. "Do not imagine yourself my equal in this room, Signora Bianchi. You are hired to serve." "I am fully aware," she said, "but even a servant has eyes and ears and a mind. You cannot dismiss them when you put coins in her hand." "Most employers prefer not to see that much in the people they hire," he said. "Most employers prefer not to see many things," she answered. "That does not make those things disappear." He did not reply. She stepped back, giving him space. "After you finish your coffee," she said, "the doctor recommended you try a few stretches with your legs. I can help you with that. He believes it may ease the stiffness." "The doctor believes many things," Alessandro said, "most of them useless." "Have you tried them long enough to know?" she asked. His eyes flashed. "You imply that I have not done my part." "I do not know what you have or have not done," she said. "I only know that doctors give advice to be followed. If it proves useless, then you may curse it with a clear conscience. If you refuse from the start, you will always wonder." "You presume to tell me how I should think," he said. "I presume nothing," she said. "I am here. You are here. Between us there is work. I am concerned only with that." He drank his coffee in silence. When the cup was nearly empty, He set it back on the saucer with a small sigh. "Bring the blanket," he said. "We will try your precious exercises." She moved without delay, folding the blanket aside and helping him shift his legs carefully. His jaw clenched with each movement, but he made no sound. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "Of course it hurts," he said through his teeth. "Pain is how I know they are still attached." "If it becomes too much, do not tell me when it is too much," he cut in. "I will tell you." "You will," she agreed softly. "But I must ask." They moved through the exercises slowly. She lifted, supported, counted quietly. 1, 2, 3. "Your voice is like a metronome," he said. "Does it disturb you?" she asked. "It reminds me that time passes," he said. "That alone is disturbing." "It passes whether you hear it or not," she said. "At least this way, it does something while it goes." He did not answer, but he did not ask her to be silent either. When they finished, he was pale and breathing a little faster. She covered his legs again and stepped back. "You did well," she said. He gave her a dark look. "Do not speak to me as if I were a child who swallowed his medicine." "If you were a child, you would have shouted and refused," she replied. "You did neither." A flicker of reluctant amusement crossed his face. "You are determined to find compliments for me where there are none." "I am determined to see what is true," she said, "even if you prefer not to." Before he could respond, there was a knock at the door. Carmela's voice sounded from the hall. "Signore Conte, you have visitors." "Visitors?" he repeated. "Who has dared to forget that I do not receive?" "Your mother, signore," came the answer. Silence fell. Lucia watched him closely. His fingers tightened on the arm of his chair, his shoulders stiffening. "Of course," he said at last, his voice low. "Who else would believe herself above my refusals? Let her in." He glanced at Lucia. "Stand back," he told her. "She disapproves of anything that suggests I might need help." "It will be difficult for her here," Lucia said. Alessandro's mouth twisted. "It has always been difficult for her here." The door opened, and the Contessa Maria di Riva entered, followed by a tall, well-dressed man Lucia did not know. The Contessa was elegantly dressed in dark silk, her hair swept back, every movement controlled. Her gaze swept the room, taking in the tray, the blanket, Lucia's simple dress. "My son," she said, crossing the room with careful steps. "You look pale." "Good afternoon, Mother," Alessandro answered. "And good afternoon, Cousin Lorenzo. I see news of my continued existence reached you?" The man beside the Contessa gave a small, polished smile. "You are difficult to forget, Alessandro," he said, "even when you try so hard to hide yourself." "I am not hiding," Alessandro replied. "I am simply staying where circumstances placed me." The Contessa bent to kiss his cheek. He allowed it, his expression unreadable. Lucia stepped back toward the wall, lowering her eyes without dropping her attention. She knew how to be present and invisible at the same time. "And who is this?" the Contessa asked, turning to her. "I do not recognize her." "This is the new caregiver," Alessandro said. "Signora Lucia Bianchi. She arrived yesterday, with a child." The Contessa's brows rose. "A child?" "Yes," he said. "The agency failed to mention that delightful detail. She brought an entire family as part of the bargain. It seems caring for me is not enough work for one woman." The Contessa looked Lucia up and down, then returned her gaze to Alessandro. "Surely this is not suitable," she said. "A child in the house. A young widow attending you alone." She shook her head once sharply. "No, this will not do." Lorenzo stepped closer, hands behind his back. "Perhaps the agency was careless," he said mildly. "They are under pressure, no doubt, to place their people." Lucia kept her voice quiet. "The agency informed Signora Carmela that I have a son," she said. "I was told the arrangement was acceptable." "It may have been acceptable for the housekeeper," the Contessa replied. "It is not acceptable for me, or for my son." She turned back to Alessandro. "You should have been told, Alessandro. This is an intrusion." "Everything is an intrusion to me now," he said. "Food, light, fresh air. Why not add a widow and her child?" The Contessa ignored the edge in his tone. "You need proper care," she said. "Discreet, controlled, someone older, someone calmer." "I have seen calm caregivers," Alessandro said. "They lasted 3 days each." "And what makes you think this one will last longer?" Lorenzo asked lightly. "Her determination? Her poverty?" Lucia felt a flush rise to her cheeks, but kept her gaze steady. "I am not shy of work, signore," she said, "nor of long days." Lorenzo's eyes rested on her face. He was perhaps a few years older than Alessandro, handsome in a polished way. His smile did not reach his eyes. "I am sure you are very industrious," he said. "But you understand, do you not, Signora Bianchi, was it, that this is not a common house? Appearances must be considered." "I understand that better than most," she said quietly. "Appearances can be crueler than truth." The Contessa frowned. "This is not a conversation for her," she said. "She is staff. We will discuss it elsewhere." "If it concerns whether I remain or go," Lucia said, "I would prefer to hear it now, Contessa. I have a child to think of. If we must leave, I should begin packing at once." The older woman looked at her as if surprised that she had a tongue. "You will speak when spoken to," she said coldly. "This is not your table to sit at." Lucia lowered her eyes. "I meant no disrespect," she murmured, "only to save time." Alessandro watched the exchange, something unreadable flickering in his gaze. "Mother, if you wish to dismiss her, speak plainly," he said. "You have never needed many words to cut a string." The Contessa drew herself up. "Very well," she said. "Signora Bianchi, I am sure you are a respectable woman. I do not accuse you of anything improper. But this position is not appropriate for a young widow with a child. You will be constantly in my son's private rooms. People will talk, they already talk. I will gladly pay your wages for the week, and you may seek work elsewhere. There are many households in need of help. This one is not the place for you." Lucia's chest tightened. For a moment, the careful calm she wore threatened to tear. She thought of the road back down the hill, the empty pockets, the small hand that trusted hers. "I understand your concern, Contessa," she said, forcing her voice to be clear. "But I did not come here to cause trouble. I came because I was told your son needed assistance, and because I need to support my own. If I leave now without even a chance to work, I will return to nothing. I do not have another house to go back to." "There is always somewhere," the Contessa said. "Family, friends, charity." "I have exhausted my family," Lucia said. "I will not live on charity." "Pride is a luxury for the poor," Lorenzo remarked. "It tends to cost them more than it gives." "Dignity is not pride," Lucia replied quietly. "It is what keeps us from crawling." The Contessa's eyes flashed. "Enough," she said. "You forget yourself. Alessandro, tell her to go. This is beneath you. Everyone will know you have a young woman hidden in your rooms. It will be interpreted in only one way, and not in her favor." "That is not fair," Lucia said before she could stop herself. "I will not be hidden. I work in the daylight in front of servants and doctors. I am not ashamed of my hands." "Your hands are not the problem," Lorenzo said softly. "Cousin," Alessandro said, his voice sharper now, "we all understand your concern. There is no need to polish it further." He turned his gaze to his mother. "You wish to avoid scandal, Mother. I understand that. You fear what people say in drawing rooms. You fear whispers more than you ever feared reality. That has not changed." "I fear for you," she said. "I fear for the name you carry, for what remains of your place in this world." "You fear for a coat of arms carved in stone," he replied. "I no longer wear that coat. I wear this chair." There was a heavy pause. Lucia looked from one to the other, feeling as if they stood on either side of a river she could not cross. "If you tell me to go, Signore Conte," she said quietly, "I will go. I will knock on other doors. Perhaps one of them will open. But if you dismiss me only to soothe other people's tongues, weigh their comfort against my son's hunger. That is all I ask." The room held its breath. The Contessa tightened her shawl around her shoulders. "She speaks as if her problems were our fault," she said. "We did not make her a widow." "No," Lucia said. "War did that. But you did call for a caregiver and promise wages. That is what brought me here." Lorenzo leaned toward Alessandro. "You do not need this," he murmured. "Send her away and we will find someone else. Someone less complicated." Alessandro's eyes rested on Lucia's face, then on his mother's, then on his cousin's. Something in him seemed to measure, to weigh. "You are all very concerned for my soul," he said. "Yet none of you wish to sit here and listen to it all day." "That is not the question," the Contessa began. "It is exactly the question," he cut in. "You care what people say about a woman in my rooms." I care what I must bear in those rooms. He turned back to Lucia. You wish to stay? He asked. Even after hearing my mother speak of you as a problem and my cousin hint that you are a temptation. Lucia lifted her chin. I wish to work, she said, if you will let me. He watched her with that same sharp gaze. You are not offended. Of course I am offended, she answered. I am human, but I do not have the luxury of letting offense guide my steps. Lorenzo gave a low, disbelieving laugh. Listen to her, he said. She speaks as if she were giving a sermon. Alessandro ignored him. Very well, he said slowly. You will stay. His mother stared at him. Alessandro, he raised a hand. Do not trouble yourself. She will not last a week. None of them do. Let the house have its game. We will see how long her dignity survives my company. Lucia felt the humiliation in the words, but also something else. An odd kind of protection. He had not spoken kindly, but he had kept her from being dismissed on the spot. The Contessa's lips pressed together. You make light of this, she said. You take pleasure in being difficult. I take pleasure in very little, he replied. Allow me this one diversion. Let us see if poverty can withstand insult longer than comfort did. Lorenzo shook his head, smiling faintly. Very well, he said. If this amuses you, cousin, I will not stand in the way. But remember, when gossip reaches us, that we warned you. I remember everything, Alessandro said. He turned his chair a little toward the window, as if dismissing the matter. The audience is over, he said. You may all return to your own lives. I will remain with mine. The Contessa gave Lucia one last cold look, then swept from the room with Lorenzo following at her side. The door closed behind them. Silence settled. Lucia stood still, hands clasped, feeling the heat in her face. You heard him, she thought. He kept you for sport. But sport or not, it meant food and shelter for Matteo, at least for now. She swallowed hard. Thank you, Signore Conte, she said quietly, for allowing me to remain. Do not thank me, he said without turning. I did not do it for you. I know, she replied. You did it to prove a point. Exactly, he said. You are a piece in a game. Do not mistake that for kindness. I do not, she said. Kindness would not call me a diversion. He looked at her then, perhaps surprised by her frankness. And yet you stay, he said. And yet I stay, she replied, because my son cannot eat your words. A strange, short sound escaped him, half laugh, half something else. You are insolent, he said softly. Perhaps, she said, but I am also punctual. I will return this afternoon for your exercises. She turned and left before he could answer, her back straight. Outside, in the corridor, her knees suddenly felt weak. She pressed her hand against the wall and closed her eyes for a moment. Carmela appeared at the end of the hall. Well? The housekeeper asked. He decided I may stay, Lucia said. Carmela's brows rose. That is unexpected. He wishes to prove that I will not last the week, Lucia said. He has made me into a test. Carmela's mouth softened. He makes tests of everyone, she said. Do not let that trouble you more than it must. It troubles me enough, Lucia said, but not enough to leave. Later that day, when the house had quieted and the sun hung lower in the sky, Lucia carried a book to Alessandro's sitting room. Carmela had told her he sometimes asked to be read to, though he rarely admitted enjoying it. She knocked and entered at his short command. I brought a book, she said. Would you like to hear it? I do not need to be read to, he said. I can read. Yes, she replied. But reading alone is not the same as hearing another voice. It might distract you from your boredom. He eyed the book. What is it? Poems, she said, by a man who died before you were born. He wrote about things he never managed to live. Perhaps you will find that amusing. Or irritating, he said. Very well, sit. Let us see if your voice can do more than count to 10 while I stretch my legs. She moved to a chair, but something near the desk caught her eye. A portrait leaned against the wall, turned so that its painted face faced the paneling. Only the back of the frame showed, dark and plain. On the desk a drawer stood slightly open, a corner of folded paper peeking out. The wax seal had been cracked. The edges of the pages were creased, as if they had been read and crushed many times. Lucia's hand moved almost on its own toward the drawer, not to take anything but to push it closed out of habit. Do not touch that, Alessandro snapped. She froze and withdrew her hand. I beg your pardon, she said. The drawer was open. You thought you might tidy what you do not understand, he said sharply. Leave it. Of course, she said. She moved back toward her chair, but her gaze flicked once more to the hidden portrait, to the papers stuffed in the drawer. The anger in his voice was not the same as before. It was sharper, almost fearful. She opened the book on her lap and began to read, her voice calm, but in her mind a new thought had taken root. Some hurt deeper than illness lived in this room. Some story hung on the backside of a portrait and the edges of torn letters. As her voice filled the silence, Lucia understood that the Count's bitterness had not been born with his accident, and she wondered what wound lay behind that hidden portrait and those crumpled letters. The poems became part of their days. At first, Alessandro listened with a frown, arms crossed, gaze fixed out the window while Lucia read. He called some verses foolish, others sentimental. He scoffed when a poet spoke of storms and destiny, of broken men who rose again. Rubbish, he would say. Real storms do not write poems after they pass. They leave mud and broken roofs and silence. And broken roofs can be mended, Lucia would answer. Silence can be filled. By poets, he would ask. By stubborn people, she said. Sometimes they are the same thing. He never asked her to continue, but he did not ask her to stop either. Day by day, the rhythm of the house bent around a new routine. Morning exercises, awkward but steady. Short walks for Matteo in the kitchen garden, always under Carmela's watchful eye. Midday rest. Afternoon reading. Your voice is tolerable, Alessandro remarked once. I have heard worse. That is high praise, Lucia replied. Shall I sew it on a banner? Do not be impertinent, he muttered. She smiled to herself and turned the page. Matteo saw little of the Count at first. Carmela kept him below stairs, teaching him where he could sit, where he could not go, how softly he must walk. Why may I not see him? He asked his mother one evening as she buttoned his shirt after washing him. Because he is not used to children, Lucia said, and he is in pain. Pain makes people impatient. I would not make noise, Matteo insisted. I can be quiet as a mouse. You are many things, my love, she said, but not a mouse. Still, perhaps one day he will be ready to see you. That day came sooner than she expected. It happened 3 mornings later. Lucia had gone to fetch fresh water from the corridor basin when Matteo, who had been sitting on a bench near the stairs with a piece of bread, saw her pass and slipped after her, his bare feet barely tapping on the floor. Mama, he whispered, I want to help. You can help by staying where you are, she told him gently. Go back, Matteo. I will not be long. But a sudden sound from behind her made her turn. The door to Alessandro's room had opened wider. His chair sat closer to the threshold than usual, turned a little toward the hallway. I rang the bell twice. His voice came sharp. Do you intend to answer only on feast days? Lucia set the pitcher down. I am here, she said. I was fetching water. And leaving me to die of thirst in the meantime? He asked. No, she said calmly. Only to wait a little. You are very much alive, Signore Conte. I doubt 2 minutes more would change that. He opened his mouth to respond, but his eyes shifted past her and narrowed. What is that? He demanded. Lucia turned. Matteo stood frozen halfway to her, his bread clutched in his hand, crumbs decorating his chin. His eyes were wide. That, Alessandro repeated, is the child. Yes, Lucia said. This is my son. Matteo, greet the Count. Matteo swallowed and bowed his head a little. Good day, Signore Conte, he murmured. Alessandro stared at him. Has no one told you, he said slowly, that this floor is not for children? Yes, Signore, Matteo whispered. And yet here you are, Alessandro said. Yes, Matteo repeated, his voice smaller. Lucia stepped slightly in front of him. The fault is mine, she said. I told him to return downstairs. He followed me instead. He means no harm. I do not care what he means, Alessandro said. I care that I am not a spectacle for children's curiosity. Matteo flinched. He is not a spectator, Lucia said. He is 6 years old. He saw his mother and came after her. It is what children do. They do as they are taught, Alessandro snapped. Teach him better. Matteo's chin quivered. Lucia felt a heat climb her chest. We will go, she said evenly. Come, Matteo. She reached for his hand. He grabbed it, still staring at the Count. Is it true you cannot walk at all? He blurted, the question escaping before fear could stop it. Matteo, Lucia said sharply. That is enough. But Alessandro's eyes had fixed on the boy now, hard. Yes, he said. It is true. Do you find that entertaining? Matteo shook his head fast. No, signore. I think it must hurt. It does not hurt, Alessandro said. It is worse than hurt. Pain reminds you something is still there. This is nothing. Matteo looked down at the Count's covered legs, then up at his face. I am sorry, he said. I do not need your pity, Alessandro replied. It is not pity, Matteo said in a rush. Mamma says, she says sometimes people say angry things because their heart is tired. She told me not to be afraid of that. Matteo, Lucia breathed, mortified. Alessandro's gaze slid to her again, sharp as a blade. Did she? He asked. Lucia swallowed. Yes, she said. I did. Your mother speaks much, Alessandro said to the boy. Does she also tell you that little boys should obey when they are told to stay in the kitchen? Yes, Matteo said quietly. But you disobeyed, Alessandro said. Yes, Matteo repeated. Then she lies, Alessandro said coldly. Fear would have done you good today. Go, and do not come back here. Matteo's eyes filled. He turned, his small shoulders stiff, and walked back down the corridor. He did not run, but each step seemed heavy. When he had disappeared around the corner, Lucia turned back to Alessandro, anger trembling under her skin. There was no need for that, she said. For what? He asked. For telling the truth? He disobeyed. He should fear you. You are all he has. If he learns now that disobedience brings consequences, he may survive this world better than I did. Fear is not the only teacher, she said tightly. And you know nothing of what he has already survived. I know he is a child, Alessandro replied. Children adapt. They forget. They do not, she said, voice low. They carry words in their chest like stones. Some they never put down. He looked at her, taken aback by the intensity in her tone. You are upset, he observed. You said my anger does not frighten you. Your anger does not, she said. Your cruelty to a child does. I was not cruel, he said, a faint, defensive edge entering his voice. I did not shout. I did not strike him. I answered his question honestly. You used him to wound me, she said. That is not honesty, it is aim. He inhaled, held it, then let it out slowly. Perhaps you should leave, he said. You are no use to me when you are offended. She looked into his face and saw beneath the hardness something like shame. It did not make her less angry, but it cooled the heat enough for her to speak without shouting. I will bring your water, she said. Then I will go comfort my son. We will both return when we have had time to remember why we are here. He stiffened. Do not speak to me as if you had any power over my house. I have power over myself, she said. I choose not to stay in a room where my child has been used as a target. She filled the glass, placed it on the table within his reach, and left without waiting for dismissal. In the kitchen, Matteo sat on the bench with his toy horse clutched so tightly his knuckles were white. Carmela hovered near the stove, pretending not to watch him. Lucia knelt before him. Matteo, she said gently. He looked up, eyes bright with unshed tears. I made him angry, he whispered. I'm sorry, Mama. You did nothing wrong, she said at once. You are curious, you are 6. He is a grown man who should know better than to aim his anger at you. He said you lied, Matteo said. You do not lie. No, she agreed. I do not to you. He spoke out of his own bitterness, not out of truth. Does he hate me? Matteo asked. No, she said. He does not know you. He hates what he has lost. He sees your legs run, your feet move, and it reminds him of his own. That is all. I will not run near him, Matteo said quickly. I can walk slowly, I can be careful. You can be a child, she said. The rest is his work, not yours. Carmela approached then, drying her hands on her apron. It is not wise for the boy to go near the upper floors, she said quietly. The Count is unpredictable. I know, Lucia replied. I will keep him below, I promise. Her promise held for the next days. Work settled again into a pattern. Matteo stayed near the kitchen and yard. Lucia divided herself between her son and the man who seemed determined to push her to her limits. Gradually, something shifted. The next time they did the exercises, Alessandro did not snap when she suggested an extra stretch. He grunted and complied. When she read in the afternoons, his comments grew less mocking, more dryly observant. "This poet," he said once, "longs for things he never possessed. He writes of bravery and battlefield glory. I would wager he never held a sword." "Perhaps," Lucia said. "Or perhaps he held one and failed to use it." "And you prefer that?" Alessandro asked. "Cowardice over experience?" "I prefer honesty," she said. "If he was afraid and he writes truly of that fear, I respect it more than if he wrote brave lies." He considered her for a moment. "What frightens you, Signora Bianchi?" he asked. "Losing my son," she said without hesitation. "Not being able to feed him, seeing him grow with hunger in his eyes, that frightens me more than any man." "Not illness, not death," he pressed. "Death comes for everyone," she said. "Hunger strikes some sooner than others. I fear the sooner blow." "And you think staying here will keep it away?" he asked. "For a time," she said. "Long enough to find the next piece of bread." His gaze drifted to her hands. "Your fingers are rough," he remarked suddenly. "Work does that," she said. "I prefer it to soft palms that have never done anything useful." "My palms were not always useless," he said quietly. "What did you do?" she asked. "Many things," he replied. "I rode. I hunted. I managed estates. I played cards badly, danced worse. I shook hands with men who pretended to be important. I signed my name on papers I did not always read carefully enough." "Which of those do you miss?" she asked. He looked surprised. "Miss?" "Yes," she said. "Do you miss the horses, the hunting, the dances?" "I miss movement," he said. "All of it. The feeling of walking into a room without thinking how many eyes count your steps. I miss forgetting that I have legs." "You still have legs," she said softly. "I have weight," he corrected. "The rest is habit of shape." She fell silent, not because she had nothing to say, but because she sensed he had reached the edge of what he could express. One afternoon, a week after the Contessa's visit, Lorenzo appeared at the door of the sitting room alone. "May I come in?" he asked. Alessandro's mouth tightened. "You already have," he said. "If you are here, it is not to ask permission." Lorenzo smiled. "Ever the gracious host." He stepped inside, nodding to Lucia without really seeing her. "So," he said lightly, "the widow remains." "She remains," Alessandro said. "You look disappointed. Were you hoping to win a wager among the servants?" "I never bet on certainties," Lorenzo said. "It is bad form, though I confess I did not expect her to endure your charming temper so long." "She is stubborn," Alessandro said. "In that, at least, we are alike." "I had not noticed," Lorenzo said, glancing at her. "She is very correct, very restrained." "Do not mistake quiet for weakness," Alessandro said. Lorenzo's smile thinned. "I never mistake anything, cousin." He turned to Lucia. "You will attend the family dinner this evening," he said. "As staff, of course. My aunt insists on having you present, if only to see what kind of person has bewitched her son into compliance with his therapy." "I have bewitched no one," Lucia said. "I have only done my work." "Call it what you like," Lorenzo replied. "Be in the dining room at 7, wear your neatest dress. That one will do, I suppose." He left as abruptly as he'd come. Lucia glanced at Alessandro. "If your mother wishes me there only to examine me," she said, "perhaps it is better if I do not go." "You are staff," he said. "She will see you whether you carry a tray now or later. Better to meet her gaze once and be done with it." "You do not mind?" she asked. "I mind everything," he said, "but I have grown tired of running from it. Go, listen. The walls in that room have heard worse than anything they will say about you." That night, the dining room shone with polished glass and silver. Lucia stood near the sideboard, hands folded, waiting to carry dishes when signaled. The Contessa sat at the head of the table, Alessandro at her right, Lorenzo at her left. A pair of distant relatives had joined them, their titles long and faces interested. "And this is my son's caregiver," the Contessa said at one point, gesturing lightly toward Lucia. "Signora, what was it?" "Bianchi," Lucia supplied. "Yes," the Contessa said. "From Milan, a widow." The female cousin, a talkative woman with sharp eyes, tilted her head. "A widow with a child, is that not so?" she asked. "How touching. You are very generous, Maria, to open your house this way." "There is a limit to generosity," the Contessa murmured. Lorenzo smiled. "My aunt is kindness itself," he said, "though sometimes kindness must be guided by prudence. One would not wish strangers to misunderstand the presence of a young woman in a gentleman's private rooms." The male cousin chuckled. "People misunderstand anything given time," he said. "You cannot control tongues." "One can avoid giving them material," the Contessa replied. Lucia kept her eyes lowered, but she heard every word. "And how do you find your employment, Signora Bianchi?" the female cousin asked, in a tone that suggested she already knew the answer she wanted. "I find it honest," Lucia said. "I do what I am paid to do. The Count endures what he must endure. We each keep our part." "How dreary," the woman said lightly. "I hope he is not too frightful a patient." "He is in pain," Lucia said simply. "People in pain are often sharp." "Sharp," Lorenzo repeated, amused. "That is a gentle word for my cousin's temper." "Words are all I have," Lucia said. Lorenzo's eyes glinted. "Some women have more than words to offer their employers," he said, the phrase smooth, almost casual. The cousin laughed behind her napkin. The Contessa's lips pressed tight. Lucia felt heat in her cheeks but did not look up. "Careful, Lorenzo," the male cousin said. "You will make the lady blush." "Some blushes are earned," Lorenzo replied. At that moment, Alessandro's hand moved. He set his glass down with a deliberate sound. "That is enough," he said. The voices around the table fell quiet. "You invited me to dinner," he said to his mother, his gaze steady. "You insisted I come down, so that you might parade me like a relic and reassure yourselves that I have not yet entirely vanished. I agreed against my better judgment, but I will not sit at this table while my employee is insulted in front of me." "No one is insulting her," the Contessa said quickly. "Lorenzo was making an observation. She is new. People are curious." "People are cruel," Alessandro corrected. "Curiosity is rarely polite." He turned to Lorenzo. "You imply that she is here for more than her wages," he said. "You imply that I, a cripple in a chair, have need of entertainment beyond poetry and pain. You insult her, and you insult me in one breath. Clever, cousin, but untrue." Lorenzo's smile tightened. "I meant no offense," he said smoothly. "I merely worry about appearances, as any friend would. You are vulnerable to gossip." "I am vulnerable to gravity," Alessandro said. "Gossip cannot do worse than the ground has done. And as for appearances, let people say what they will. I have heard worse whispers since my accident than any you could invent." The Contessa reached for his arm. "Alessandro, my dear, calm yourself. You are upsetting everyone." "I am upsetting you," he said, "because you would rather see her gone than admit she has done more for me in 1 week than all your dignified, discreet nurses did in 2 years. Lucia's heart thudded. She kept her gaze trained on the tablecloth, but her ears rang. "She does her work," Alessandro continued. "She listens when I speak, and does not faint when I do not. That is all. If your guests cannot sit at the same table with the knowledge that I have hired a widow to assist me, then perhaps they should dine elsewhere." The silence that followed was heavy. Then the female cousin laughed nervously. "My, how modern we have become," she said. "Very well, let us speak of something else. The vineyards, perhaps." The conversation limped on, thinner and more strained. Lorenzo's eyes flicked now and then toward Lucia, thoughtful, calculating. When the meal at last ended and the guests drifted toward the salon, Lucia retreated to the side corridor, her hands shaking slightly as she carried a tray. Carmela caught her sleeve. "Are you all right?" she asked in a low voice. "He defended me," Lucia said, almost believing it as she spoke. "In front of them all. I did not expect that." "Nor did I," Carmela admitted. "Perhaps the exercises are waking more than his legs." When the house had quieted and the guests were shown to their rooms, Lucia went to fetch Matteo from the attic room where he had slept that night to keep him away from the noise. He curled against her on the way back to their chamber, half asleep, trusting. Later, after he had settled and the candle had burned low, Lucia sat at the small desk by the window, a blank sheet of paper before her. The memory of Lorenzo's eyes at the table, sharp and amused, would not leave her. A soft knock sounded at the door. She rose and opened it a crack. Lorenzo stood in the dim corridor, hands behind his back, smile polite. "Forgive the late hour," he said. "May I speak with you a moment, Signora Bianchi?" She hesitated. "My son is asleep," she said. "I cannot leave him." "We will not go far," Lorenzo said. "Just to the end of the corridor. The walls here have ears. I prefer to offend fewer of them at once." Against her better judgment, she stepped into the hallway, pulling the door almost closed, but leaving it unlatched. "What is it, Signore?" she asked. He studied her face a moment. "You must not mistake my cousin's defense for security," he said. "I do not," she replied. "I am still staff." "You are more than that now," he said, "at least in the eyes of those who watch. When a man defends a woman so vehemently at table, people assume no attachment." "I did nothing to encourage such assumptions," she said. "I believe you," he replied. "But belief will not help you when gossip reaches the town, or the agency, or certain offices in the city." A chill slid down her spine. "What offices?" she asked. "The ones that decide where children without proper homes should go," he said softly. "Where they decide whether a mother is suitable, respectable, safe." She stared at him. "Are you threatening my son?" "I am warning you," he said. "If you remain here, whispers will grow. They will not touch my cousin. He is a count. They might not touch you at first. You are only a servant. But if someone decides that a young widow is using her position improperly, that she is too close to her employer, too often alone with him, questions will be asked, papers examined. A boy's presence in such a house will be called irregular." Her mouth went dry. "You would not dare," she whispered. "I would prefer not to," he said. "I am not a monster. I only wish to protect what little order remains in this family. My advice to you is simple. Leave. Take your son. Do not wait until talk curdles into accusation." "And if I refuse?" she asked. He sighed gently. "Then I will be forced to speak with people who can make your life far more difficult than it is now. You will find that no respectable house wishes to employ you, that certain doors close, that perhaps for the boy's own good it would be better if he were raised in an institution, among other children, rather than by a mother whose reputation is compromised." Her hands clenched at her sides. "For you think you can take him from me by talking," she said, her voice shaking. "I think," he replied, "that in this country, in this century, a woman alone with no powerful name to shield her should tread carefully. I'm offering you a path away from danger. Take it." He stepped back, his smile returning, cool and pleasant. "You are clever enough to understand reason," he said. "Good night, Signora Bianchi." He left, his footsteps fading into the darkness. Lucia stood in the corridor, heart pounding, until she heard Matteo stir behind the door. She slipped back into the room, closed it, and leaned against the wood, shaking. Her eyes went to the small bed where her son slept, his arm flung over the blanket, his toy horse on the pillow beside him. The thought of anyone taking him away made her feel as if the air had been punched from her lungs. Slowly, she returned to the desk. The blank sheet of paper waited. She sat, dipped the pen in ink and began to write. She wrote to Alessandro because she owed him more than a disappearance. She told him that she was grateful for his defense at dinner, that she had seen courage in him that no one else seemed to notice, that she believed he deserved more than pain and silence, and then she told him she must leave. She did not mention Lorenzo's threat. She only wrote that the weight of gossip would fall harder on her than on him, and she could not risk her son's future. She wrote that her departure was not a judgment on his character, but an act of survival. By the time she reached the final lines, tears blurred the ink. Her hand shook as she signed her name, Lucia Bianchi. She sat there for a long moment, staring at the words. Then she folded the letter carefully, pressed it against her chest as if it might still change its meaning, and sat trembling between the man she had begun to understand and the child she could not afford to lose. Lucia did not sleep that night. The letter lay folded on the small table by the window, a pale square in the candlelight. She sat on the edge of the bed, watching Matteo's chest rise and fall, listening to the distant creaks of the old house, the faint steps of servants finishing their duties. Her mind went back again and again to Lorenzo's voice in the corridor. "I am offering you a path away from danger. Take it." She had faced hunger, grief, and loneliness. She had not faced the thought of losing Matteo. That terror was new and sharp and very real. Near midnight she rose, took the letter, unfolded it, read the shaky lines. Her own words felt both too much and not enough. "He will read this," she whispered to herself, "and he will think I am ungrateful, or cowardly, or both." She folded it again, pressing the crease with her thumbnail. Matteo stirred. "Mama," he murmured, half asleep. She crossed to him at once. "I am here," she whispered. "Sleep. Are we staying?" he asked, eyes still closed. She hesitated, then bent to kiss his hair. "We will talk in the morning," she said. "Now rest." When dawn finally paled the window, her decision was made. She dressed quietly, took out the small bundle of clothes they had brought, and began to pack. Every movement felt like a betrayal and a necessity at once. Matteo woke as she was tying the trunk. "Are we going?" he asked, sitting up, hair tousled. "Yes," she said softly. "We must." He blinked. "Because of the Count, because of the house," she said. "Because of people who do not wish us here. It is not safe for you, Matteo. I will not risk that." He looked worried. "Will we be hungry again?" "Perhaps for a while," she answered honestly, "but we have survived that before." "We will again." A knock came at the door. Lucia opened it a crack. Carmela stood there, already dressed, her face more lined than usual. "You are up early," the housekeeper said. "I am leaving," Lucia replied quietly. "This morning." Carmela's eyes moved to the trunk, then to Matteo's pale face. "Has someone dismissed you?" she asked. "No," Lucia said. "I dismiss myself." "Why?" Carmela asked, voice low. Lucia hesitated. "Your master's cousin," she said finally. "He came last night. He believes my presence here will bring harm, not to the Count, to my son." Carmela's eyes hardened. "What did he say?" "That gossip will come," Lucia said. "That I will be painted as something I am not. That someone may decide I am not fit to raise my own child." Carmela's breath caught. "He would not—" "He could," Lucia said. "You know he could. I have no name to shield me, no relatives with influence, only this boy." Carmela looked at Matteo, then at Lucia again. "Does the Count know?" she asked. "No," Lucia said. "I will not burden him with this. He has his own battles. I will not become one more." She glanced at the folded letter on the table. For a moment, she reached for it. Then she drew her hand back. "If your cousin finds it before the Count does," she said, "he will twist every word. If your mother finds it, she will burn it." "You could give it to him directly," Carmela suggested, "and watch you or some other servant be blamed for carrying it." Lucia shook her head. "No. Better he thinks I am like the others. It will hurt his pride for a day or two. That is lighter than a scandal that might tear apart my son's life." Carmela studied her. "You care for him," she said quietly. "More than you wish to admit." Lucia's throat tightened. "I respect him," she said, "and I pity him, and I understand him more than I expected to. But none of that feeds a child." "I see," Carmela murmured. "Will you help me?" Lucia asked. "We have little baggage. A place in a cart or small carriage to the village will be enough. From there I will manage." Carmela hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There is a farmer bringing milk this morning," she said. "He returns empty. I will ask him to take you and the boy. If anyone questions, I will say you decided the work was too hard." "People will believe that," Lucia said. "They expect it." "Will you not at least say goodbye to the Count?" Carmela asked. Lucia's fingers dug into the fabric of her skirt. "If I see him," she said, "I will not leave, and if I stay, I may lose Matteo. That is the simple truth." Carmela sighed. "You are a brave woman, Lucia Bianchi, and a stubborn one. Both qualities the Count despises," Lucia said with a trembling smile. "Both qualities he needs," Carmela replied. "Come, the farmer will not wait all day." She helped carry the small trunk down the back stairs. Matteo walked beside them, clutching his toy horse and a cloth bundle with his spare shirt and trousers. In the grey yard, a cart stood hitched to an old horse. The farmer, a broad man with kind eyes, looked surprised when he saw Lucia and the child. "This is the caregiver," he asked Carmela, "the one they said would not last the week." "This is she," Carmela said. "She has decided to return to the village. She will pay you for the journey." Lucia handed him a small coin, almost all she had. He took it with a nod. "Climb up," he said. "We'll be there before the sun is high." Lucia turned to Carmela. For a moment, The two women simply looked at each other. "Thank you," Lucia said, "for your kindness." "I did very little," Carmela replied. "You did the hard part." "If you can," Lucia said hesitantly, "tell the Count that I wish him days with less pain." "I will tell him something," Carmela said. "I do not know if he will listen." "Tell him nothing," Lucia said suddenly. "Let him be angry with me. Anger is easier to carry than pity." Carmela's eyes softened. "You do not know his anger as I do," she said. "But perhaps you are right." She rested a hand briefly on Matteo's head. "Mind your mother," she said. "You are all she has." Matteo nodded solemnly. Lucia climbed into the cart and pulled Matteo up beside her. The wheels creaked as the farmer flicked the reins and the horse started forward. The mansion receded slowly. Lucia kept her eyes on the road ahead. Matteo watched the house until it disappeared behind a stand of trees. "Are you sad, Mama?" he asked. "Yes," she said simply. "But I am more afraid than sad. And that is what makes us move." "Will we see the Count again?" he asked. "I do not know," she replied. "Life is strange. Sometimes it brings people back together when we least expect it. But we cannot wait for that." He leaned against her side. "He will be lonely," Matteo said. "He was lonely before we arrived," Lucia said. "He will manage. He has a whole house to help him." "Not like you," Matteo said, eyes drooping. "You did not listen when he shouted." She pulled him closer and held him while the cart rattled down the hill. Back at the mansion, the bell pulled by Alessandro's hand rang twice, then a third time, sharp and insistent. No one came. He frowned, rang again. The bell chimed faintly down the corridors. At last a young maid appeared in the doorway, flushed and breathless. "Signore Conte," she gasped. "Forgive me, I was in the other wing." "Where is Signora Bianchi?" he asked at once. "She has not come." The maid's eyes flickered. She is not here, Signore." He stared at her. "What do you mean she is not here? She does not leave this floor without asking my permission." "She left early, Signore," the girl stammered. "Before dawn." He felt something cold drop in his chest. "Left," he repeated. "Yes, Signore, with the boy." Signora Carmela arranged a cart. "They are gone." For a moment, nothing in the room seemed solid. Then his hand tightened on the arm of the chair. "Send Carmela to me," he said quietly. "Subito, Signore," the maid said, and vanished. He sat very still, staring at the empty doorway. The blanket over his legs suddenly felt heavier than ever. Gone, like all the others. But she had not seemed like the others. She had not flinched. She had not cried when he sharpened his words. She had promised she would stay a week. No man, not even a count, frightens a mother who needs to feed her child. Apparently, he thought bitterly, I am less frightening than hunger. That should comfort me. It did not. Carmela came in with her usual measured steps, but he saw at once that her hands were clasped tighter than usual. "So," he said, "you have decided to run my household as you please." She lifted her chin. "I do as duty and conscience tell me, Signore." "Duty," he repeated. "To whom?" "Not to me. To the living soul in this house who needs most," she said, "and sometimes that soul is not yours." He glared at her. "Where has she gone?" "To the village," Carmela said. "Beyond that, I do not know." "Why?" he demanded. "Yesterday she was here, today she is gone. What changed between one sunset and the next?" Carmela hesitated. "Your cousin spoke with her," she said quietly. "Late last night in the corridor. I did not hear every word, but I saw her face after. She looked frightened." His fingers dug into the wood. "Lorenzo," he muttered. "Of course." He turned, grimacing as the movement strained his back. "Send him to me," he said. "Now." "Alessandro," Carmela began. "Now," he repeated, voice like ice. She bowed her head and left. Lorenzo arrived not long after, immaculate as always, his expression calm. "You rang, cousin?" he asked. "You sound very imperious for someone who never leaves his chair." "Where is she?" Alessandro asked without preamble. "Whom?" Lorenzo asked lightly. "You will have to be more specific. Women pass through this house as often as the seasons." "Do not play with me," Alessandro said. "Lucia, where is she?" Lorenzo's brows rose. "Ah, the widow." "Yes," Alessandro said. "The widow who was here yesterday and is gone this morning. Did you speak with her?" "I may have exchanged a few words," Lorenzo said. Friendly advice. What kind of advice makes a woman flee before dawn? Alessandro demanded. The kind that reveals realities she would rather not face, Lorenzo replied. I told her what everyone else is too polite to say, that her presence here will damage her reputation more than it helps her purse, that the world does not look kindly on young widows in the rooms of unmarried men. You poured poison into her ear, Alessandro said. I gave her truth, Lorenzo said. You defended her at dinner, in front of guests and servants. Whatever your intentions, it painted a picture. They will talk. They already are. I do not care if they talk, Alessandro snapped. Let them gnaw on my name if they have nothing better to do. You do not care because you have nothing to lose, Lorenzo said, his voice still calm. She does. She has a child. If certain rumors reach certain offices, he let the sentence trail off. Alessandro's eyes sharpened. What have you done? He asked slowly. Nothing yet, Lorenzo said, and I hope I will not have to. That is why I advised her to leave, to protect herself. And, indirectly, you. You threatened to take her child, Alessandro said, voice low. You dare. I threaten nothing, Lorenzo answered, though his eyes did not waver. I simply describe how the world works. You may not have noticed, but it is not kind to poor women with no name, especially when men with titles decide they are troublesome. That man is you, not me, Alessandro snarled. Lorenzo's pleasant mask slipped for an instant. We are both part of this family, he said. Our decisions carry weight. Some of us take that weight seriously, and some of us break spines with it, Alessandro shot back. The air between them crackled. Tell me one thing, Alessandro said. When I lay broken after my accident, who decided which letters I received, which visits were allowed, which doctors I saw? Lorenzo straightened slightly. Mother managed those matters, he said. I assisted when asked. You assisted in keeping the world away from me, Alessandro said. You chose what I would know and what I would believe. Did you enjoy that power? Lorenzo's eyes cooled. I did what was necessary to protect the estate, he said, to protect you from yourself. And now you protect me from the only person who has looked at me without disgust in 2 years, Alessandro replied. How generous. You mistake pity for respect, Lorenzo said. She would have left eventually. Better now, before things become complicated. Alessandro's hands shook with fury. Get out, he said softly. Cousin, get out, Alessandro repeated louder. If I must see your face one more minute, I cannot trust my tongue. Lorenzo hesitated, then inclined his head and withdrew. When the door closed, Alessandro let his head fall back against the chair. The room seemed smaller, the ceiling lower, the walls closer. She was gone. He had known, deep down, that she would leave. Everyone did. They always did. Yet he had let something like hope creep near, like a stray dog at the edge of a yard. He should never have fed it. The hours that followed dragged like wounded limbs. He refused breakfast, refused lunch, refused to look at the window. The exercises lay forgotten. There was no reading that afternoon. The silence he had once inhabited as a shield now felt like a weight on his chest. When Dr. Ricci arrived that evening for his weekly visit, Carmela met him at the door with an uncharacteristic urgency. You must see him, she said. He has refused everything. He is worse than before she came. Before who came? The doctor asked, setting down his case. The caregiver, Carmela said. Lucia, she has left. Already? Ricci frowned. She seemed different from the others. She was, Carmela said. That is the problem. He climbed the stairs and entered Alessandro's sitting room without waiting for a call. Good evening, he said briskly. I hear you have decided to stop eating. May I ask whether you consider this a medical experiment or a new form of protest? Alessandro did not turn. Go away, Ricci, he said. I have no use for you today. You rarely have use for me any day, the doctor replied. Yet here I am, like taxes. He came closer, noting the untouched tray, the way Alessandro's hands hung loosely over the armrests. Is it because she left? He asked. Alessandro's jaw tightened. Carmela has a generous tongue, he said. Does she also report what time I breathe and how many times I blink? Carmela cares whether you live, Ricci said. As do I, though I hide it better. Tell me what happened. What always happens, Alessandro said. I believed in something. It walked away. Ricci pulled a chair near and sat facing him. "Did you give it reason?" he asked. "I always give reason," Alessandro said bitterly. "I just did not know which one she would choose. My temper, my mother, my cousin, my chair." She had many to pick from. "From what I have heard," Ricci said, "she chose your cousin." Alessandro glanced at him. "Carmela told you?" "She told me Lorenzo spoke with her," Ricci said, "and that this morning the widow was gone. I know that family well enough to guess the rest." "He threatened her," Alessandro said quietly. "He threatened to use the weight of our name against her child." "And you?" Ricci asked. "What will you do?" "I?" Alessandro gave a hollow laugh. "Nothing. I cannot walk, I cannot ride. I cannot storm into town and drag her back like some jealous lover. I can only sit here and be angry. That is what I do best." Ricci leaned forward. "You can leave this house," he said. "You have always been able to. It would be uncomfortable, difficult, painful, but not impossible." Alessandro looked at him as if he had suggested flying. "Leave?" he repeated. "And do what? Paralyze the streets with my chair?" "Go to her," Ricci said simply. The room went very still. "You expect me," Alessandro said slowly, "to be carried down those steps, put in a carriage, jolted over every stone between here and the village, all to chase a woman who chose to leave?" "Yes," Ricci said. "That is exactly what I expect if you wish her to know that her presence mattered. You have spent 2 years letting others decide where you go and who you see. You have signed away decisions with a tired hand. If you want her back, go yourself. Do not send letters, do not send servants, go." Alessandro's eyes darted to the door, as if he could already see the stairs beyond it. "And if I collapse on the way?" he asked. "Then you will have collapsed doing something other than rotting," Ricci said. "Forgive my bluntness. You pay me for it. You think your body is the only thing that cannot move. But it is your will that lies paralyzed. Lucia moved it more in 1 week than I have in months. Do not waste that." Alessandro swallowed. "It would hurt," he said. "Yes," Ricci said. "It will hurt. Living hurts. Staying where you are hurts too. Choose the pain that leads somewhere." Silence stretched between them. Then Alessandro whispered, almost to himself, "I do not know if I can." "You do not know until you try," Ricci said. "If you try and fail, at least you will have an honest answer. If you do nothing, you will lie to yourself for the rest of your life saying you had no choice." Alessandro looked at his own hands, the veins showing more than he remembered. He thought of Lucia's fingers steady as she guided his legs, of her voice counting, of her telling him he was more than his anger. He thought of Matteo's small face, confused and brave. Slowly he lifted his head. "Call the stable," he said. "Have them prepare the light carriage. I will need 2 strong men." Ricci's brows rose. "Now?" "Yes," Alessandro said. "Before I convince myself otherwise." "Your mother will faint," Ricci remarked. "Let her," Alessandro said. "She has smelling salts." Ricci allowed himself a small smile. "I will speak to Carmela," he said, "and I will ride with you. Someone must keep you from leaping out of the carriage in a rage and shattering the rest of your bones." "I doubt that is a danger," Alessandro said dryly, "but your company may be useful." When Ricci left, Alessandro sat very still. Then he reached for the wheel of his chair and turned it toward the door. By the time Carmela returned, there was movement in the corridor. Footsteps, voices, the creaking of harness leather. "You are really going," she said, as if she scarcely believed it. "Yes," he replied. "You will help me down the stairs." "It will be difficult," she warned. "I am aware," he said. "You have told me that about everything worth doing." 2 footmen came, strong and nervous. Under Ricci's instructions, they lifted the chair with Alessandro in it, 1 man at the back, 1 at the front. Carmela walked alongside, murmuring directions. The first step was agony. So was the second. Pain flared through his back. Sweat broke on his forehead. He bit down on any sound that might escape. "Breathe," Ricci said quietly. "In, out. If you faint, it will take twice as long." "I am not going to faint," Alessandro ground out. By the time they reached the entry hall, he felt as if he had crossed a mountain. The sight of the open door, the strip of daylight beyond, seemed unreal. His mother appeared at the top of the main staircase, pale and incredulous. "What is this?" the Contessa cried. "Alessandro, what are you doing?" "Going out," he said. "It is what men sometimes do, I have heard." "You cannot," she said, descending a few steps. "It is dangerous. The roads are rough. The air is the same air that enters my window," he said. "I will endure it." "And where are you going?" she demanded. "To the village," he said, "to find the woman your nephew frightened away." Her face tightened. "This is madness," she said. "You will exhaust yourself for what?" "A servant who ran at the first scare." "She did not run at the first scare," he said. "She stayed longer than many. She left because your nephew used the weight of our name as a threat." "I will not have my name used so." He lifted his chin. "If you have any affection for me, mother, stand aside." She stopped on the steps, breathing hard. "You will ruin yourself," she whispered. "I am already ruined," he said. "This is the first thing I have done in 2 years that feels like my own choice." She saw then that nothing she said would divert him. Slowly, she moved to the side of the staircase, gripping the railing as if it were the only solid thing left. The footman carried him out into the light. The carriage waited near the steps, a lighter model adapted with space for his chair. The coachman stood ready, eyes wide. They lifted Alessandro up again, guiding him into the carriage, securing the chair with straps. Ricci climbed in beside him. Carmela stood near the wheel, her hands trembling in her apron. "Bring them back safely," she told Ricci. "I will do my best," he said. "The stubbornness is his own." Alessandro looked at her. "If we return," he said quietly, "she may come with us, or she may not. But whatever happens, things will not go back to how they were. Prepare yourself." "I have been preparing for that since you were a child," Carmela said. "Go." The carriage jolted forward. The road to the village was rougher than Alessandro remembered. Every stone, every rut transmitted itself through the wheels into his spine. Yet beneath the pain was something else, an odd, fierce exhilaration. Fields passed, then clusters of houses. People on the roadside stopped to stare at the carriage with the strange passenger. "Let them look," Ricci said. "They would have looked sooner or later." At last, the church spire of the village rose ahead. The carriage rattled over cobblestones and into the small square. "Where would she go?" Ricci asked. "An inn," Alessandro said through clenched teeth. "Somewhere cheap, somewhere with a roof that did not leak too much." "As if you have ever had to choose an inn for its roof," Ricci muttered. But he called to the coachman to stop near a modest boarding house facing the square. At that moment, the door of the house opened. Lucia stepped out, carrying the bundle of their clothes. Matteo followed, dragging the small trunk with both hands, his face flushed with effort. "Careful," she said. "Do not strain yourself. We will find someone to help us once we know where we are going." "Where are we going?" he asked. "As far as we must," she replied. "We will look for work in the next town, or the next. There is always somewhere." A murmur rose from the small group of villagers who had paused to see the carriage. Lucia looked up, puzzled, just as the coachman reined in the horse. The door of the carriage opened. Ricci climbed down and turned, offering his hand to steady the chair as the footman lowered it to the ground. Alessandro's wheels touched the cobblestones. The square seemed to hold its breath. Lucia stared, feeling as if the world had slipped sideways. "Signore Conte," she whispered. He looked tired, pale, but his eyes were clearer than she had ever seen them. He drew a breath, as if the air itself weighed something. "Lucia," he said, "you have a talent for leaving quietly." She tightened her hold on the bundle. "You should not be here," she said. "The journey must have hurt you. The roads—" "Do not tell me where I should or should not be," he said. "I hear that enough at home." She took a step toward him, then stopped. "How did you—" "I followed the only road you could take," he said. "It was not complicated. Painful, yes. Not complicated." Villagers watched from doorways and corners, whispering. The sight of the Count in the middle of the square in his chair, speaking to a poor widow, was more interesting than any market day. Lucia's cheeks warmed under their gaze. "People are staring," she murmured. "Let them," he said. "They have stared at me for less." He glanced at Matteo, who stood very still beside her, the trunk handle in his hand, eyes huge. "Hello again," Alessandro said to him, voice gentler than before. "I see you still disobey when your mother tells you to stay put." Matteo blinked, uncertain whether this was a joke or a scolding. "We are going away," he said. "We will not bother you." "You already bother me," Alessandro said. "You and your mother. You disturb my peace. You wake thoughts I had put to sleep. You make me remember I am still capable of wanting something." Lucia swallowed. "You came all this way to tell me I am a nuisance?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "No," he said. "I came to tell you that I care for you, and that I cannot let you leave believing you were only a diversion in my house." Her breath caught. "Signore," she said quietly, "do not say things in front of all these people that you will regret." "If I regret anything," he said, "it will be not saying them sooner." He shifted his hands on the wheels as if bracing himself. "I have been many things," he said. "Proud, angry, cowardly. I let others decide what I would know, who I would see, where I would live. I wrapped myself in my own shame and called it dignity." His eyes held hers. "You came into my house with your rough hands and your small son," he said, "and you refused to be impressed by my anger. You did not flinch when I threw words like stones. You told me the truth when everyone else preferred comfort. You treated me as a man, not as a ruined statue in a quiet room." Lucia's throat ached. "I only did what I was hired to do," she whispered. "You did much more," he said. "You made me want to move, to breathe, to leave my prison. You gave me back the possibility of choice. No coin can pay for that." He took another breath, deeper this time. "I know why you left," he went on, "or enough to guess. My cousin uses fear the way others use fans and canes. He threatened you where you are softest. Your son." Lucia closed her eyes briefly. "I did not tell you," she said. "I did not want to drag you into it. You have enough battles." "You are one of my battles," he said. "Do not try to choose which ones I fight. It is my right to decide that." She opened her eyes again. Tears blurred the edges of the square. "If I stay," she said, "he will not stop. He will whisper. He will press his threats. He will go to offices with papers and stories. I cannot risk Matteo. I would sleep each night wondering whether someone would knock at the door to take him from me." "I cannot promise to silence every gossip," Alessandro said. "I am not a king, but I can promise you this. I will not allow my name to be used as a club against you. If he goes to offices, I will go to courts. If he spreads whispers, I will speak aloud. I am not without power, Lucia. I have simply let others wield it for too long." She shook her head. "You cannot watch me every hour," she said. "You cannot guard every door." "No," he agreed. "I cannot. But I can stand beside you. It is better than letting you stand alone." Her voice trembled. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do that? For a caregiver you have known only weeks?" "Because you are not only a caregiver to me," he said plainly. "You are the woman who sat in a cold room and told me I was more than my chair. You are the mother who looked me in the eye and refused to let me turn my spite upon her child. I respect you, I trust you, and somewhere between one exercise and the next, I began to look for you in the doorway each morning, as if my day could not begin until you were there." Her heart thudded. "Do you know what you are saying?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "I am saying that I love you, in my broken way, in the way a man loves when he has learned too late how fragile everything is. I do not know if that is the kind of love you want, but it is all I have." The square went so quiet that the distant caw of a crow could be heard. Lucia felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. The words she had never expected, never even dared to imagine, had been spoken in the open air, in front of strangers and her own child. "Signore," she whispered, "you are asking me to believe in a life that will bring me more storms than calm." "Yes," he said, "I am. I cannot promise you ease, only honesty, and a share in whatever days I have left." She looked down at Matteo. He stared between them, wide-eyed. "Mama," he said in a small voice, "does this mean the Count is not angry anymore?" She laughed through her tears. "I think he is still angry," she said, "but perhaps not at us." She turned back to Alessandro. "I am afraid," she said. "I am afraid of what your family will do, of what people will say. I am afraid of having my heart broken again." "So am I," he said simply. "But I am more afraid of letting you walk away without trying." The honesty in his voice cut through her confusion like a clear bell. Slowly she stepped closer, until she stood just in front of his chair. She looked into his face, saw the lines of pain, the stubborn set of his mouth, the vulnerability he tried so hard to hide. "If I come back," she said, "I cannot return as I did before. As someone who can be pushed aside with a few sharp words or a cousin's whim, if I come back, it must be as something more. I do not want you as a servant," he said. "I want you as my equal in the only place that matters. Here," he touched his chest. "I cannot kneel, Lucia. My legs will not allow it. But if I could, I would be on my knees now, asking you to tie your fate to mine." Her eyes filled. "Do not ask what you do not yet understand," she said. "To tie your fate to mine, we must untangle what lies behind you. Your accident, your guilt, the lies your cousin feeds you. I will not attach myself to a shadow." "Then come help me chase it away," he said. "Come back to the house, not as a frightened employee, but as the woman who will stand beside me while we drag every secret into the light." She searched his face for any sign of doubt. She found none. "Will you accept my son as part of that?" she asked. "Not as an inconvenience, as part of us?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "If you come, he comes. I will not have one without the other." Matteo tugged at her skirt. "Mama," he whispered, "if we go back, will there be bread?" She laughed, a sound half sob, half joy. "There will be bread," she said, "and perhaps other things." He nodded solemnly. "Then we can go," he decided. "I like him better now." Alessandro made a strangled sound that might have been a laugh. "So," he said, "my worth is measured in loaves and apologies. That seems fair." Lucia reached out. For the first time, she placed her hand lightly over his on the armrest. "I will come back," she said. "Not because you are a count, not because you have a big house, but because you left that house for me. Because you chose to move." He looked at her hand on his, then up at her. "Then I have finally made one choice that was not a mistake," he said softly. Ricci cleared his throat discreetly. "If we remain in the square much longer, someone will sell tickets," he murmured. "May I suggest we move this declaration to a less public location?" Lucia wiped her cheek, still smiling. "He is right," she said. "We are giving these people something to gossip about for a month." "Let them have their month," Alessandro replied. "We will have our years." She helped guide his chair back toward the carriage. The footman lifted it carefully. Lucia climbed in beside him with Matteo on her other side, clutching his toy horse. As the carriage turned away from the square, Lucia looked back once at the small boarding house, at the church spire, at the curious faces. Then she faced forward. The road toward the mansion stretched ahead, rough and familiar. Alessandro exhaled, his shoulders loosening as if some invisible band had been cut. "Are you in pain?" she asked quietly. "Yes," he said, "but it is a pain I chose. That makes it lighter." She rested her hand on his arm. Matteo leaned against her, eyes already drooping with the motion of the carriage. They rode in silence for a while, the wheels crunching over stones, the sky slowly brightening. At last, Lucia spoke. "When we arrive," she said, "we will have much to face. Your mother, your cousin, whatever is hidden in that room of yours. Are you ready for that?" "No," he said honestly, "but I am more ready than I was yesterday, and I will not face it alone this time." She nodded, her heart steady for the first time in days. The mansion came into view, no longer just a distant shape by the lake, but the place where their lives had collided and would now, together, be changed. The house they were returning to would no longer be only his prison. Together they would turn it into a place where the past could finally be met by the future they had just chosen. The carriage rolled through the gates and into the courtyard. Servants paused in their work, eyes wide. Stable boys, a maid with a basket of linen, the cook's helper carrying a sack of flour. All of them stopped as they saw the Count's carriage return not empty, but with the master himself sitting upright at the door, a woman and a child at his side. Carmela came down the steps with her apron still on, wiping her hands. "You made it," she said, looking first at Alessandro, then at Lucia and Matteo. Relief flickered across her face. "Thanks, Bea. We are less fragile than you think," Alessandro said, though his voice was strained. "You are more stubborn than I hoped," Carmela replied. "That will be the end of you one day." "Not today," he said. We have work." The footman moved to lift his chair down from the carriage. Their hands were careful but more confident this time, as if his journey to the village had shown them that the world would not end if he left his rooms. Lucia climbed down, then reached for Matteo, who hopped onto the ground and looked around with big eyes. "We are back," he whispered. "We are," Lucia answered. "Remember what we decided. We stand straight. We are not less than anyone." He nodded, though he slipped his hand into hers. The great front door opened. The Contessa stood there, upright and pale, her expression carved in marble. She took in the scene in one sweep: the chair on the gravel, the woman beside it, the child holding her hand. "You brought them back," she said to Alessandro, her voice low. "Yes," he replied. "I went to fetch what should never have been forced to flee." Her gaze rested on Lucia. "You disobeyed me once by staying," she said. "Now you disobey me by returning." Lucia drew breath. Before she could answer, Alessandro spoke. "She did not return against your will," he said. "She returned at my request. If you wish to be angry with someone, be angry with me. I have shoulders for it." The Contessa's eyes shone briefly at that, but her mouth stayed firm. "You are still my son," she said. "I will be angry if I please." "Then be angry," he said. "You will survive it. You have survived worse. In the meantime, we have matters to settle." "What matters?" she asked. "The truth," he said. "About what happened after my accident. About the letters I did not see. About the decisions that were made while I lay in pain. And about the man who thought he could frighten away the only light that has come into this house in years." At the mention of that man, Lorenzo appeared in the doorway behind her, as if summoned by his name. "Cousin," he said smoothly, "you are back so soon. I hope the village square was entertaining." "It was informative," Alessandro said. "I learned how far a man may crawl behind a name to threaten those weaker than himself." Lorenzo's smile faltered. "If you mean our conversation, I did nothing but warn her." "I know exactly what you did," Alessandro said, "and so do you. We will discuss it properly. Later. Not on the steps like tradesmen." He looked at his mother. "This afternoon," he said, "I want everyone in the main salon. You, Lorenzo, Dr. Ricci, Carmela, and whoever handled my correspondence when I could not hold a pen. We will talk. I am done being the only one who does not know what has been done in my name." The Contessa's fingers tightened on the doorframe. "You are not strong enough for such scenes," she murmured. "I am strong enough for at least one truth," he said. "The lies have tired me more than the pain." She held his gaze for a long moment, then inclined her head once. "Very well," she said. "If you insist on tearing the house open, we will all stand in the draft." She moved aside. "Bring him in," she told the footman, "and see that the boy has something to eat. Whatever else happens, I will not have a child go hungry under my roof." Lucia's eyes met hers. There was still distance there, but something had changed. A line had bent, if not broken. "Thank you," Lucia said quietly. The Contessa did not answer, but she did not look away either. Inside, Alessandro insisted on being taken not to his sitting room, but straight to the main salon. "I will rest where I intend to speak," he said when Ricci protested. "If I lie down now, I will not rise again today." They settled him by the tall windows, a small table beside his chair. Lucia stood near one arm of the chair, not behind him as a servant would, but at his side. Matteo sat on a low stool near her skirts, munching on a piece of bread Carmela had pressed into his hand. "Will it be very bad?" he asked in a small voice. "It will be loud," Ricci said. "Bad? That depends on whether people choose truth over comfort." "I have heard enough comfort," Alessandro said. "I am curious to hear what truth sounds like." The hours until the appointed time crawled. Lucia helped Alessandro drink, loosened the tension in his shoulders with careful hands, straightened his collar. He endured the fuss with less sarcasm than usual. "You are very calm," she observed. "I am not," he said. "My stomach is in revolt, but it is too late to call the army back once the cannons are rolled into the square." "Cannons?" Matteo said, alarmed. "A way of speaking," Lucia assured him. "There will be no soldiers, only words." "Oh," he said, "words are worse." She smoothed his hair. "Sometimes," she agreed softly. At last, Carmela appeared at the door. "They are ready," she said. "The Contessa, Lorenzo, and Dr. Ricci. I have also brought Signor Bellini, the steward. You asked for the man who handled your papers." "Good," Alessandro said. "Let them come in." They entered one by one. The Contessa, tall and severe, but with shadows under her eyes. Lorenzo, perfectly composed, eyes cool. Dr. Ricci, already in the room, took a place slightly to the side, as if he intended to watch rather than lead. Signor Bellini, thin and anxious, clutched a folder to his chest. "This resembles a trial," Lorenzo remarked lightly. "Who is the judge?" "I am," Alessandro said. "It is my life that has been tried in my absence. I think I may sit in judgment for an hour." "You are being melodramatic," the Contessa said. "I have earned the right," he replied. "Sit, all of you. We will begin." They took chairs. Carmela remained near the wall, hands folded, eyes alert. Alessandro looked at Bellini first. "How long have you been steward here?" he asked. "Since your grandfather's time, Signore Conte," Bellini said. "More than 30 years. And after my accident," Alessandro said, "who decided which letters reached me?" Bellini glanced at the Contessa, then at Lorenzo. "I did, Signore," he said, "under the direction of your mother and your cousin." "And what directions were those?" Alessandro asked. The Contessa stiffened. "We wish to spare you unnecessary distress," she said. "You were gravely injured. You needed rest, not business." "I do not mean business," Alessandro said, "though we will come to that. I mean personal letters, from friends, from others." Bellini swallowed. "We kept anything that might upset you," he said. "Any letter that spoke of broken engagements, condolences, demands, gossip. And we showed you only what seemed useful." "Useful to whom?" Alessandro asked. "To the family," Lorenzo said smoothly. "We could not have you burdened with trivialities when your health was so precarious." "You mean I could not contradict you if I did not know what was happening?" Alessandro said. "You could not manage the estate," Lorenzo replied. "That was simple fact. You signed the necessary papers giving me authority. I did what had to be done." "Under whose advice?" Alessandro asked. "The doctors?" "Some," Lorenzo said. "Not Ricci. Others. Specialists." Ricci crossed his arms. "Specialists whose names I never heard," he said, "who apparently told you there was no hope, though they never examined the patient in my presence." Alessandro lifted his hand slightly. "We are wandering into fog," he said. "Let us bring something solid." He looked at Bellini again. "In that folder you hold," he said, "there are letters you kept. Letters addressed to me, is that so?" Bellini swallowed again. "Yes, Signore." "From whom?" Alessandro asked. "From several people," Bellini said. "From old-school friends, from business partners, and from Signorina Elena Villani." The name cut through the air like a knife. Lucia felt Alessandro's hand jerk under her own. She had seen that name once, faintly, on the back of the turned portrait's frame. "Elena," Alessandro repeated slowly. "I was told she did not write, that she washed her hands of me." Lorenzo shifted in his chair. "She did not come," he said. "That was enough." "Did she write?" Alessandro asked, not taking his eyes off Bellini. "Yes, Signore," Bellini whispered. "Many times." The room seemed to tilt. Alessandro's voice stayed low, but it shook. "How many?" Bellini opened the folder with trembling fingers. "The first was 2 weeks after your accident," he said. "Then another, and another. There are 12 in all. Give them to me," Alessandro said. Lorenzo stood. "This is absurd," he said. "Old letters, old promises. None of it matters now. She married someone else. You know that." "I know what you told me," Alessandro said. He held out his hand. Bellini stepped forward and placed the bundle of letters in it. The paper was worn at the edges. The ink faded in places. "Who read these?" Alessandro asked, his thumb brushing the top envelope. "I did," Bellini whispered. And your cousin." Alessandro looked up at Lorenzo. "You opened letters addressed to me," he said. "Someone had to," Lorenzo replied, still standing. "You were not in a state to respond. We had to know what people expected. And when you read her words," Alessandro said, "what did you see? Pity, disgust, relief at being freed from a lame bridegroom?" Lorenzo's jaw tightened. "I saw weakness," he said. "A girl who clung to the idea of sacrifice, who would have chained herself to a man who could not give her the life she deserved. I saved you both from a miserable arrangement." "Saved us," Alessandro repeated. "How?" "I wrote to her," Lorenzo said, "in your name. I told her you released her from the engagement, that you did not wish to see her, that you could not bear her pity. It was kinder. Kinder to whom? Lucia asked quietly. All eyes went to her. She had not meant to speak, but the question had slipped out. Kinder to him, Lorenzo said. He was already drowning in self-loathing. Did you wish to drown him in a woman's tears as well? And kinder to you, Ricci added dryly, since a broken engagement meant one less claim on the estate you were busy rearranging. Lorenzo's cheeks flushed. I did what I had to do, he said. A crippled count with a grieving wife and children would have been a burden to everyone. This way, he was alone. It is easier to manage one man than a household. And what about what I wanted? Alessandro asked, his voice suddenly raw. Did that ever enter your calculations? You would have chosen the noble path, Lorenzo said. You always did. You would have clung to her, convinced you owed her something. You would have dragged her into a half-life in a house of shadows. I spared you that. You spared me love, Alessandro said quietly. You spared me letters that might have kept me from sinking so deep. You spared me the chance to say goodbye on my own terms. My son, the Contessa began, her voice unsteady, you must understand, we were all thinking of you, of your dignity, of what the world would say. The world has said worse since, he cut in. And you always believed its voice louder than mine. She flinched. Did you know? He asked her. About the letters. I allowed Lorenzo to manage them, she said. I trusted him. Perhaps I should not have. Perhaps, Ricci echoed. Alessandro looked down at the bundle in his hand. He did not open them. Not yet. Instead, he placed them carefully on the table. This is one piece, he said. There is another. Doctor, you told me once that certain treatments were stopped without your consent. Yes, Ricci said. The progressive exercises. The regimen I believed could restore at least some function. I was told the family had decided it was too painful for too little gain. Who told you that? Alessandro asked. Your cousin, Ricci answered. All eyes swung to Lorenzo again. I spoke for your mother, Lorenzo said. She was distraught. She could not bear to see you suffer. The doctors we consulted agreed it was pointless. Which doctors? Ricci pressed. The ones you paid to write opinions. I never saw them. I never spoke with them. They were respectable men, Lorenzo said. They wrote what they believed. They wrote what you suggested, Ricci said. Words again used as ropes. Alessandro's hands tightened on the armrests. So, he said slowly, you read letters meant for me. You answered them without my knowledge. You decided which treatments I would endure and which I would not. You took my voice and used it as your own. I did what was best, Lorenzo said. You gave me authority. You signed the papers. I signed them under the influence of opiates and despair, Alessandro said. That is not consent. That is surrender. Lorenzo spread his hands. What would you have had me do, he said. Abandon the estate? Let creditors tear it apart while you lay in bed, refusing to move? I would have had you tell me the truth, Alessandro answered. Show me the letters. Let me decide whether to write back. Present me with honest reports, not only those that supported your plans. Treat me as a man with a broken body, not a child with no mind. Silence fell. Lucia watched Alessandro, saw the tremor in his jaw, the effort it took him to keep his voice steady. Pride and pain mixed in his eyes. She stepped closer, her hand brushing his sleeve, a small anchor. He breathed. What is done, he said at last. I cannot go back and rewrite those years. Eleanor is married. My legs are still as they are. But I can decide what happens now. He looked at Lorenzo. You will no longer manage my affairs, he said. Effective immediately. Lorenzo's head snapped back. You cannot. I can, Alessandro said. And I do. Bellini, you will bring me every account, every contract, every document I signed in the last 2 years, one by one. I will review them. Where I see dishonesty or waste, I will correct it. If I need assistance, I will ask for it. From men I trust, not from the cousin who thought lies a form of protection. You are being unjust, Lorenzo protested. You are angry. You will regret this. I regret only that it took me this long, Alessandro said. You will receive a modest allowance from the estate, enough to live comfortably but not extravagantly. You may take charge of the small property in Emilia that belonged to my aunt. It is far enough from here to give us all fresh air. You are sending me away, Lorenzo said slowly. I'm sending you where your influence will do less harm, Alessandro replied. It is more mercy than you showed to Lucia when you threatened her with her child. Lorenzo's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since this began, he seemed at a loss for words. And if I refuse to go? He asked. You may stay in the village if you prefer, Alessandro said, or in some city pension. But you will not live in this house. Not while I draw breath. The Contessa shifted uneasily. Alessandro, you cannot cut family so easily. He turned to her. I cut nothing, he said. I am only setting broken bones that have been twisted too long. If he wishes to return one day, he may. But not as the man who makes decisions for me. Only as a cousin who has learned to speak truth. Lorenzo's jaw worked. You are a fool, he said finally. Throwing away the only person who truly kept this house standing. The house was standing when you came, Carmela said quietly. We managed before you. We will manage after. He looked at her, at Ricci, at Lucia, at Bellini. He saw no support in any of their faces. Slowly, he bowed to the Contessa. Aunt, he said, it seems I am no longer needed here. She looked torn, but she did not speak. He turned to go, then paused and looked back at Alessandro. Do not think this woman will save you, he said softly. Your body is still broken. Your nights will still be long. Love does not mend nerves or bones. I know, Alessandro said, but it gives me a reason to bear what will never mend. That is more than your careful lies ever did for me. Lorenzo's eyes narrowed. Then he left, his steps measured, his back straight. When the door closed behind him, the room felt oddly larger, as if some invisible weight had been removed. The Contessa sank slowly into a chair. You have done it, she said. You have turned the house upside down. It needed turning, Alessandro said. She looked at Lucia, really looked at her, at the plain dress, the tired eyes, the hands that still rested near her son's dark hair. You did this, she said quietly. You and your presence. Lucia shook her head. He did this, she answered. I only held up a mirror. The Contessa sighed. Perhaps I did not wish to see what was in it. Few of us do, Ricci said, but the reflection remains, whether we look or not. Matteo, who had been eerily silent through the adult storm, tugged at Lucia's skirt. Mamma, he whispered, is it over? Part of it, she said, brushing his hair. The hard part. Alessandro turned his chair more fully toward his mother. There is one more thing, he said. She managed a faint, weary smile. Of course, she murmured. Why not? He reached for the small bundle of letters again. I will read these later, he said. In private. Elena belongs to a past that cannot change, but my future is here in this room, with you, with them. His gaze moved to Lucia and Matteo. I intend to marry Lucia, he said. The room seemed to exhale in surprise. The Contessa stared. Already? She said. You return from the village, and in the same breath you dismiss your cousin, accuse him of betrayal, and announce your intention to marry a woman the world will tear to pieces the moment you give it the chance. Yes, he said simply. If the world wishes to tear, let it. I will not hide the woman I love like a shameful secret. Lucia's cheeks burned. Alessandro, she murmured. He reached out, found her hand, and took it in his. I love you, he said again. This time not in a public square, but in the room where his life had crumbled and would now be rebuilt. I will not pretend otherwise for anyone's comfort. The Contessa's eyes filled with tears. You will be mocked, she said. You will be pitied. They will say you were trapped by a pretty face and a soft story. He shrugged slightly. They already say worse things. At least this way some of it will be true. Her gaze shifted to Lucia. You understand what this would mean, the Contessa said. For you, for your boy. You will be judged every time you step into a room. Every kindness extended to you will be measured, weighed, debated. I am judged already, Lucia said, as a poor widow, as a mother who works, as a woman who dares to stand upright. This marriage will not create judgment. It will only change its words. The Contessa pressed her hand to her mouth, then lowered it. And the child? She asked. What of him? Alessandro looked at Matteo. He comes with us, he said. Always. If Lucia agrees to marry me, I will ask the authorities to recognize him as my son. He will bear my name. He will inherit whatever love and guidance I can give. Matteo's eyes widened. Your name, he whispered. I can be like you? You can be better than me, Alessandro said. That is my hope. Tears spilled down the Contessa's cheeks. She rose slowly and came to stand before Lucia. When I first saw you, she said, I thought you a threat. To my son's dignity, to our family's name, to everything I spent my life guarding. Lucia held her gaze. I know, she said softly. You did not hide it. No, the Contessa said. I have never been good at hiding my disapproval. She drew a breath. But I have watched him these last days, she continued. I have seen him speak with a voice I thought crushed. I have seen him defy me, not out of childish stubbornness, but with the steadiness of a man who has finally chosen to live the life he has, not the one he lost. And I know that began when you arrived. Lucia swallowed. I only did my work, she said. You did more, the Contessa replied. You brought laughter back to a house that had forgotten the sound. You allowed my son to be angry in front of someone who did not flee. You saw him. I do not know if I ever did. She reached up and touched Alessandro's hair lightly, a gesture from the days when he had been a boy. If this is what you truly want, she said to him, I will not stand in the way. The world can say what it pleases. It has taken enough from us. I will not let it take this. Marry her. Bring the boy under our roof. Let this house be a home again, not a mausoleum. Alessandro's eyes shone. Thank you, Mother, he said quietly. Ricci sniffed loudly. At last, he said. Some sense in this building. Carmela wiped her eyes with the corner of her apron and muttered something about onions. Alessandro turned his chair fully toward Lucia, still holding her hand. I cannot kneel, he said. My body refuses that courtesy. But in my heart, Lucia, I am on my knees before you. Will you be my wife? Not as a nurse chained to a patient, but as a woman walking beside a man who is learning, slowly, how to be worthy of her. Her vision blurred. She squeezed his hand, grounding herself. You are a foolish man, she whispered. And proud, and impatient, and sometimes very hard to endure. I know, he said. I am working on it. But you are also brave, she continued, and honest now, which is more than many can say. You left your prison for me. You crossed your own pain to reach me. That is not something I can forget. She drew in a shaky breath. Yes, she said. I will marry you. Matteo let out a whoop that echoed to the ceiling. Mamma is going to be a countess, he declared. And I will have 2 names. Laughter rippled through the room, light and startled. The Contessa moved to her writing desk, opened a small drawer, and took out a simple gold ring. This was my mother's, she said, bringing it to them. I wore it when I married your father. It has seen much joy and many tears. It may as well see more. She placed it in Lucia's hand. Welcome to our strange, stubborn family, she said softly. Lucia's fingers closed around the ring, warm from the Contessa's palm. Thank you, she whispered. The weeks that followed were filled with preparations, not the grand, glittering preparations of a nobleman's alliance, but the quieter, practical tasks of shaping a life. Rooms were rearranged. A larger chamber was prepared for Lucia and Matteo near Alessandro's. A tutor was engaged to teach Matteo his letters properly, since a boy who may one day sign a count's name must know how to spell it, as Ricci said. Alessandro began his exercises again with renewed will. They were harder now, more focused. Ricci and a new physical therapist worked together, guiding his legs, encouraging small movements. There will be no miracles, Ricci warned him, but there may be progress. Do not despise small victories. I am learning, Alessandro replied. I married a woman who believes in them. You are not married yet, Ricci reminded him. Try not to scare her away before the ceremony. I have already tried and failed, Alessandro said. She is more resilient than I am. The morning of the wedding dawned clear. Lucia dressed in a gown that had been altered from one of the Contessa's simpler dresses. It was not grand, but it was clean, well-fitted, and hers. Carmela helped fasten the buttons, humming under her breath. You look like yourself, Carmela said. That is more important than looking like a painting. I feel like myself, Lucia replied. Only lighter. Matteo, in a small dark suit with a stiff collar, fidgeted in the corner. Do I have to stand still the whole time? He asked. My legs itch. For a little while, Lucia said. Then you can run as much as you like. Even in the hall? He asked. She hesitated, then smiled. We will see. In his own room, Alessandro sat before the mirror while a valet trimmed his hair and adjusted his cravat. The Contessa stood behind him, watching his reflection. You look almost as you did before, she said, a touch of wonder in her voice. No, he said. I am not that man anymore. He was careless. I know better now. She rested her hand on his shoulder. Perhaps, she said, but I am glad to see a piece of him in your eyes. When it was time, the small household gathered in the chapel that opened toward the lake. Sunlight fell through the simple windows onto the worn floor. Lucia walked down the aisle with Matteo holding her hand. There were no crowds, no music beyond a few halting notes from the old organist, but she felt as if the whole world were watching. At the front, Alessandro waited in his chair, hands folded, eyes fixed on her. When she reached him, he drew a breath. I had many rehearsed words, he said under his breath. I have forgotten them all. Then speak the simple ones, she whispered back. Those are usually the truest. The ceremony was brief. The priest spoke of vows and patience, of bearing one another's burdens, of love that is a decision as much as a feeling. Lucia listened with her hand in Alessandro's, the ring the Contessa had given her cool on her finger. When it was time to exchange vows, Alessandro's voice was steady. I promise, he said, to share with you whatever days I have, to speak truth where I once hid behind silence, to lean on you when I am weak, and to offer what strength I have when you are tired. I cannot promise to walk beside you, but I can promise to roll alongside with as much dignity as this chair allows. Soft laughter rippled through the chapel. Lucia's own vow was simple. I promise, she said, to stand with you when the room is quiet and when it is full of eyes, to remind you that you are more than your pain, to accept your past without letting it crush our future, and to love you as the man you are, not the title you carry. When the priest declared them husband and wife, Matteo bounced on his toes. Can I say it now? He whispered to Carmela. Say what? She whispered back. Papa, he said, eyes shining. Alessandro heard. He reached out his hand. Matteo ran forward and seized it. May I call you that? The boy asked, searching his face. Alessandro swallowed hard. Yes, he said. I would like that very much. Later, in the small garden behind the chapel, the new family stood together. The Contessa watched from a nearby bench, a handkerchief clutched in her hand. Ricci leaned against a low wall, looking suspiciously pleased. Carmela hovered with a tray of cakes no one needed, but everyone accepted. Are you tired? Lucia asked Alessandro in a low voice. Yes, he said, but it is a good kind, different from the kind that comes from doing nothing. Dr. Ricci will say you must rest, she said. He says that every day, Alessandro replied. He is often right. He is also often ignored. She laughed. We should give him some victories, she said. At least today. Very well, he conceded. Today, I will obey. He shifted slightly in his chair, then looked at her with a gleam in his eye. There is one thing I wish to do before I retreat, he said. With your help. What is it? She asked. He glanced at Ricci. The frame, he said. Bring it. Ricci straightened. Are you certain? He asked. Yes, Alessandro said. It is time. Lucia watched as Ricci went into the chapel and returned carrying a wooden frame, simple but sturdy, fitted with supports and straps. I hate this contraption, Alessandro muttered, but it serves a purpose. What are you doing? Lucia asked softly. Making a promise visible, he said. With Ricci's guidance and the help of a footman, they eased Alessandro from his chair into the standing frame. His face tightened with effort, but he did not cry out. Slowly, with his hands gripping the sidebars, he rose until he stood upright, his weight supported but his spine straight. Gasps came from those watching. Lucia stood in front of him, eyes wide, hands hovering as if to catch him, even though the frame held him fast. You did not tell me you could do this, she whispered. I was not sure I could, he said. I wished to try in front of you, not in secret. If I fell, I wanted you to see that I tried. You are not falling, she said, her voice thick. You are standing, for now, he replied. One moment is enough. It is a beginning, not a miracle. It is more than I ever hoped to see, she said. He looked at her, his wife now, not just the woman who had walked into his loneliness and refused to back away. Lucia di Riva, he said quietly, tasting the new name. Walk with me. He could not take a step. They both knew that. But she moved closer until her shoulder nearly brushed his chest, until it felt, for that fragile heartbeat, as if they truly did stand side by side. Matteo ran in circles around them, laughing. Look, Mama, he cried. He is tall again. He has always been tall, she replied. We simply forgot to look up. The wind off the lake brushed their faces. The house behind them seemed less severe, its windows less like eyes and more like open hands. Alessandro drew a careful breath. I spent years believing my life ended the day I fell, he said, his voice low enough for only her to hear. Today, I know that it merely changed direction. Pain did not vanish. Guilt did not melt. But they are no longer the only voices in my head. Yours is there now. And his. She glanced at Matteo, who had flung himself onto the grass to examine a beetle. We will be noisy companions in your mind, she said. Good, he replied. Silence had too much power. She rested her hand over his, both of them gripping the wooden bar. Whatever comes, she said softly, we will face it together. Your past, my fears, his future, all of it. He nodded. Together, he agreed. The sun climbed higher, casting their joined shadows long across the grass, the shadow of a man standing, a woman close beside him, and a child darting in joyful arcs around them, weaving in and out as if tying them all with invisible thread. In that moment, in that imperfect, hard-won peace, the isolated house by the lake ceased to be a place of exile and became, at last, a home. Thank you so much for listening to this story all the way to the end. We hope it moved you as much as it moved us while telling it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment telling us where you're listening from and what you liked the most. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as a show of support. That really motivates us to keep creating and sharing more stories full of emotion and life lessons. And before we go, we want to remind you that an exciting and heartwarming story recommendation will appear on the final screen. If you'd like to enjoy it, just click on the video. Thank you once again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.